spies, saboteurs, assassins. Everything I did for the rebellion.
This is Rebel Force Radio's Andor
After Show. After Show.
I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old.
All right, here we go. We are back. The Andor After Show from Rebel Force Radio. I did see some people online saying, hey, I've already heard other people talk about this. You guys are a little late. You know what? Other people can have the first word. You know what we have here at Rebel Force Radio? We have the final word. The last word. We're not late. No. In fact, I think we're just in time. To talk about this tremendous premiere of the first 3 episodes. Very, very different format than what we got last time we were together. By the way, that last time for the Andor After Show was November of 2022. So it's been 2.5 years since we've been together to talk about the events of Ferrix and the adventures of Andor and Bix and Brasso and all that. So really great to be back with you with this tremendous lift of 3 episodes to get through today. We've got 2.5 hours of new Star Wars to talk about. It's not like a movie. It was a movie. At least that's the way I felt as I was binging episode after episode after episode with no breaks. And it wasn't that I didn't have that option. We had a little buffer day this week leading into the after show, but I didn't take it. I just went boom, episode after episode after episode, as if I had a choice. I had no choice because I was just absolutely glued to the couch and super psyched to talk to you all about it. We'll be opening up the phones in a little bit. So if you're new to the program and introductions are in order, my name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Back with the Andor After Show after a 29-month hiatus. What is this, Bondcast? Who has a schedule like that? But no, here we are. We're back with Andor talk or arguments. Have you ever tried texting somebody about Andor and the thing always autocorrects it to and/or? That's been happening to me a lot lately.
Every time.
It's like, come on, you have to figure it out by now, autocorrect, that I'm talking about the wars here on these texts. So let's get up to speed. And I'm looking forward to getting up to speed this week with Andor Season 2, the first 3 episodes. Interesting format, yeah. Dumping the full arcs on us all at once. A little overwhelming, but I have to admit, all 3 of these episodes really just flowed right into each other, one after another after another. So it really did feel like we were watching a movie more than a television show.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I wasn't even wild about the interruption of having to start the next episode. To me, I would have really just rather had it. I wish Disney would have given us a choice to just go seamless branching one episode into the next without having to skip the credits, skip the intro, skip the second intro, and then into the episode. I really would have preferred it, actually.
Yeah, but if you skip those all precious credits, they don't want you doing that. Like how on TV when they like shrink the screen down so small you can't read it, and they scroll past at super speed all the names.
Yeah, don't they know
they've already started
show to prep for? We got to know these names. We got to writing them down, pausing.
Well, that's very true. It does tend to shrink down when they're showing the complete cast, and that is frustrating. With Andor, not so bad though, because they really do let you see that full cast. But if you want to start seeing information about the technical crew and stuff, and of course we're into all the behind the scenes things going on with Star Wars, so yeah, we do want to see that.
Yeah.
And just it gets hard when they shrink that screen down and they prompt you to whatever the next show is they want you to watch. It's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, luckily for me, what they wanted me to watch was Andor Episode 2, then Andor Episode 3. They weren't suggesting anything.
So it just rolled. Yeah, I guess that's how it was.
Yeah. And then after Andor episode 3, they're like, maybe you'd like to go back and rewatch Andor season 1. And by that time, it was like 1 in the morning. And I'm like, part of me kind of would like to, but
you thought about it.
I
You did think about it.
Yeah, I did. But so very, very different structure with these 4 3-episode arcs. So we'll be with you for the next 3 weeks after tonight. And each episode arc is representing 1 year in the life of Cassian Andor leading up to the events of Rogue One. And as we know from watching Rogue One, it's just moments away really from episode 4, A New Hope. So the significance of this show, because it leads into what leads into episode 4, A New Hope, is I think something that's separates it for me from a lot of the other series where it's a little bit more blue sky. They've got a pretty tight window that they need to work into, and they got to create tension, and they got to create things that are going to keep us guessing and wanting to tune in each and every week. And again, we were talking about this on our Celebration Japan coverage about a character like Darth Maul, how they keep reusing Maul, and that window to tell stories keeps getting smaller and smaller. And Cassian Andor, we're down to now a 4-year window after these 3 episodes. So I think that it's a really interesting way to present the story. I do like the conciseness of it. And after having experienced week 1, I'm in. I like the format. I think that it, Jim, we always talk about meat on the bone. When you're showing 3 episodes of Andor, there's no way you're not going to have meat on the bone to talk about. And these 3 episodes are no exception.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it gives you a complete picture. Full story. That's fulfillment to me, as I prioritize story over just about anything. As long as the story's tight, then sometimes you don't have to fall back on all of those traditional elements of Star Wars, like Jedi, the Force, lightsabers, things of that nature.
Man,
as long as the story's good,
right?
Yeah, as long as the story's super good and really tight, and it provides you with a real immersive experience, which I think Andor does. I mean, I was right there on Mina Raalo with Brasso, cheering him to get on board that speeder and ride, Brasso, ride. Like your life depends on it, because quite honestly, his life did depend on it. And
he had a very Queel-like death, don't you think? If you remember Queel from season 1 of Mando, because we saw the smoking speeder and we knew, this isn't good.
It was just like that, minus the smell of bacon.
Well, it was the smell of Brasso. Well, let's get into the tale of the tape. We're going to talk about 3 episodes here. The episodes all written by Tony Gilroy and all directed by Ariel Kleiman. We're talking about episode 1, 1 year later. Episode 2, Sagrona Teema. I want to make sure I got that right. That is a Chandrillan wedding toast. Sagrona Teema. In episode 3, Harvest. Like I say, all written by Tony Gilroy and directed by Ariel Kleiman. And all premiered on April 22nd, 2025, for those of you listening into the future. And they all averaged, 54 minutes, 47 minutes, 56 minutes, leading into about a 2.5 hour experience, which, like I said, for me was just awesome from end to end. I didn't think there was really any downtime. I didn't think there was any... this show never... warms out the welcome of various scenes and characters for me. I think the pacing of it is just part of what makes it so good and so tight. It never overstays its welcome, and I love that. I don't think they ever settle too long on one particular thing. I never find myself, my mind wandering away from the show. And but the episode opens up with Cassian stealing the TIE Avenger. And what most people thought this was the TIE Interceptor, right? But this is actually a different ship. There's only one of them, and this is the prototype. So this is not the TIE Interceptor. This is the TIE Avenger. And he gets into this, I guess they call it Sinar facility. And the conversation that he has with the Imperial spy there working for the rebellion, I got to tell you, I really started to feel that that Cassian was really manipulating her. You know, like when you get that close and the heist is that big, and I would dare say stealing this this prototype TIE Avenger, as far as getting the Empire's attention, this is big. This is big. This is like Aldhani heist stuff. I mean, they're stealing a prototype ship. So, you know, and part of Luthen's plan was about getting the Empire's attention so that they can't be ignored anymore and show that they're a larger force than what they previously might have thought. And but as Cassian's talking to her, it was a little less of a recruitment speech and more of a, like I said, manipulation and making sure that she wasn't going to crack under the pressure. So Cassian's changed, I guess, is the point that I'm making.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's definitely displaying more leadership abilities. He's more comfortable in his own skin, that's for sure. He has more focus, more direction, in a crystal clear cut kind of way. So I thought that was a great little pep talk he gave to Naya. Excuse me, Naya. And just a couple of observations I had before we even jump into that. When it said 1 year later for BBY, I love the BBY thing too. That's so expanded
My favorite
universe.
droid.
It's not even funny. It's not even funny. It's so expanded universe. But so obviously that's before the Battle of Yavin. So this is 4 years before the events of A New Hope. That's the standard for keeping track of things in the Star Wars universe. You have A BBY and B BBY. And so after and before. And this is 4 years before Battle of Yavin. But I noticed that when they showed that 1 year later for BBY, there was the Ferrix anvil gong clang, gong, gong. And I was like, oh, great, man. That's great. I don't know if a return to Ferrix is in the cards for this season. I'm pretty sure that's under complete lockdown by the Empire at this point. But it would be interesting if they returned there. And just hearing that gong clang sound made me think of Ferrix and all the stuff that went down at the end of season 1. But here we're in this Sinar test facility. And Nia, is it her name Nia or Naya? I have it written both ways in my notes.
I don't know. I don't think we're going to see her ever again, so I don't think it really matters.
No. Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah?
I wouldn't be surprised if this show brought her back. Yeah. Because I do think she survived. I definitely think she survived right before.
I just assumed that they would have that they're going to be on to her game, and she's a dead woman walking.
Well, you have to understand. She says the last thing she says to Cassian. She goes, "Give me 12 minutes before it all goes down."
Uh-huh.
So I think that she was using that to escape, to leave this Imperial facility she's at and get the hell out of there. And the reason why I think she survived is because later on in the story, on Chandrillan, Clea says she had received a pulse message or a pulse signal confirming that Cassian did make it away from Sinar with the TIE Advanced. So I'm assuming it was Naya who sent that.
They sent the signal, huh?
That signal. Excuse me. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see her again in a later episode. Yeah, Clea got a pulse signal confirming Cassian got away with the TIE from, quote, she said, the team at Sinar. I think she said team. So I still think it would have to be her, Maya, or whatever her name is, who sent that. Yeah.
All right, so Naya lives, new hashtag for those of you
following
along
if you care. If you care. I think I was trying to piece that together. And Cassian, there is no future for Naya anymore with the Empire because Cassian used her credentials to access the hangar and open the hangar doors.
Right.
She'd have a tough time talking her way out of that. She could always say, yeah, this maniac stole it. He was flirting with me, and then he stole the credentials. But and then there was that cool droid that was booking around inside the hangar too. He was like the data pad droid, where and she put that data pad in him after she was finished inspecting the tie, and I was like, oh, that's the data pad droid. Look at that.
Yeah.
And also I thought it was interesting. She said the password to access the TIE fighter is Caffrine, which we all know in Rogue One. The story opens up the first time we see Cassian. He's on the ring of Caffrine, and that's when he shoots that guy.
Sometimes I have too much caffeine and I get the headache about noon.
Yeah. Makes you a little shaky, doesn't it? And then we saw that. Oh, look, I got him right here in my pocket.
Oh, Playtime
Range Trooper.
Theater. Yeah, the Range Trooper looked fantastic.
Range Trooper.
Yeah,
there
let's
he
zoom
is.
in on the
There he
Range
is.
Trooper.
So, look how terrible my picture is. I'm going to disconnect and reconnect. Well, that looks pretty bad. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to disconnect and reconnect while I'm going to play with my action figure while I'm going. Be right back.
All right. Well, as I was saying, this is a call-in show, so we're going to put the number up on the screen, 708-866-1737. That's the number to call. We're going to be breaking down these episodes. And looks like Tyler, our official call screener and program observer, is already screening phone calls. So whatever your question, theory, topic, whatever it is you want to talk about, it's all good. None of it's too crazy. Here, let's see if Mac was able to reconnect. It's a little bit better. Yeah, a little bit better.
Look at me. I'm like Katy Perry on that space capsule with a daisy.
Yeah, I think you could use a little more light. I think that's one of the problems. I don't think you got enough light.
You should get a little more light. Well, you know what? One of my lamps busted, so I am a little lightless. I can open the. Oh, that doesn't matter. The sun's setting. There's a little more light. Sorry, guys. I'm trying my best. Nobody in the house is streaming or anything. So
as long as
this
we
week
can hear you, that's all that matters.
I'm gonna get a lot of the emails this week. Jimmy Mac, stop using the potato for your webcam. Okay, that's fine. I think I'm using the same camera Swank uses, so I don't know.
Yeah, you're using. Yeah. It's not the way. You know what? It's tough, guys. I mean, it unless you've got fiber running into your house. I mean, that's really helpful. I know that's something that's coming to my hood. I
don't even have fiber running through me. This is terrible. I need supplements ASAP.
You know what? We were talking about Cassian, though, and you were talking about how he's definitely much more of a leader. Cassian in season 1, he had moments where he was very dedicated and singularly focused, but I feel like Diego really played it well, where he was doubting himself a lot. I always felt like Cassian in season 1 was a bit of a conflicted character. You never quite knew if he was just gonna hightail it out of there and give up on all this stuff. But this Cassian he's much closer to the Cassian that we see in Rogue One. I don't feel that there's a lot of hesitation in what he's doing. Everything's very focused. Everything's very deliberate. So I'm noticing a change in the way Diego is playing the character here in season 2.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. He has evolved. The Cassian from season 1 largely was a mercenary. And then he was a fugitive. He wasn't part of a cause. Even with the Eye of Aldani and that heist, he was there for the payday. He wasn't there for the rebellion.
He wasn't a true believer at that point at all. Far from it. Opportunist.
And he was messing with the Empire and stealing their tech and selling it on the black market because he looked at them as easy. He said, they're so fat and satisfied. They don't even know when you're in their house. And so it was easy to steal from the Empire. But then as he, was exposed more to their totalitarianism and oppression, he realized that this was something that he couldn't just exist with anymore. He'd have to stand up. And then, of course, the motivation from his mother's death and the hologram that was broadcasted there in the Ferrix Town Square. Cassian was watching all that. And that to see people take arms up against the stormtroopers at that moment must have been madly inspirational to Cassian. We don't really get too much of that as far as him sitting down talking about it. Maybe that will happen later this season. Maybe he will talk about the huge impact his mom had on him and the influence she had on him to find a higher cause to believe in. We know her picture is up in the mobile home that he's sharing with Bix and Brasso and Brasso and Talia, who is Brasso's woman there on Mina Rao.
Yeah,
I think Williman lives there.
Will's there. Yeah.
So yeah, they got all of them living in that.
Will's hanging with the farmer's daughter there on Mina Rao.
Yeah. Yeah, good for him. He's a resourceful rebel. And he's taking advantage of the situation and the environment to better his situation. So good for Williman. I thought he was sweet on Bix when the episode initially opened.
Who wouldn't be sweet on Bix?
Yeah.
I'm sweet on Bix.
I guess.
I better not say that. We got to talk about that scene coming up here in a little bit.
Yeah, wow. Was that intense?
Yeah, it really was.
We'll get to it. Jason, you're the one who's guiding the pace of this show. I don't know how you approached taking any notes or anything, or even if you did take notes. I mean, it's not a prerequisite. Lord knows I've done a lot of shows without notes. But with this, I wanted to organize my thoughts. So it was cross-cutting from location to location, scene to scene, so with such rapid fire that instead of trying to keep track of it as it was hitting us on screen, I just kept track of the locations. And so I have, I have these entries. Then I just put little, the Mouthing Divide, Krennic meeting, I have as a subtitle here. And then I have everything that happened in that meeting all under this one header. Maybe I'm pulling the curtain back too much on the way I organize.
No, I like your note-taking technique. I've got about 7 pages of notes here. So it's all typed out and printed out. And I have many screens. I got to have the paper. I like the paper.
Yeah, it's bound by, it's leather bound and embossed and limited to only 50 copies with gold leaf.
All right, well let's you
brought up slipcase.
you brought up Mina Rao and the gang there. So what can we say about the team there? They're hiding out. They're posing as farmers. As you say, Bix is there, Will's there, Brasso is there, and it seems like the farm family knows that they're rebels. At least they know enough to give them up in the third episode. At least it's implied that that at least they know that they're aliens. We'll put it that way. Maybe not part of the rebellion, but they know they're aliens. And so it was because they were hunting. They're hunting down aliens, which we can assume is like illegal aliens, those without visas. In fact, they even use the term visa, which is our own worldly term, real worldly term there. Illegal. Yeah. So that was a little bit on the nose. I don't know. To me, it was a weird added layer when you very well could have just had these characters on the lam because they're part of the rebellion. I don't know why they had to give them this extra thing to hang over their head that they were illegals, illegal aliens. To me, that was one part where I thought the show sounded like it was like really trying to be relevant in our, quote unquote, turbulent times, because I don't really recall this being an issue in Star Wars before.
Well, no. I've heard Henry Gilroy, not Henry Gilroy.
Tony
Gilroy.
The other Gilroy.
Henry Gilroy was a writer on the Clone Wars. He's an animation writer. I'm talking about Tony Gilroy, the great screenwriter. And he said countless numbers of times that he's using the story of the Russian Revolution from the early 1900s basically as the template for this story. And he's telling the Russian Revolution story through the lens of Star Wars. So I imagine the Gorman Massacre will be presented to us much like Bloody Sunday, which happened in the first Russian Revolution, and really which kicked off the first Russian Revolution. I think that those are things he's picking from. He's picking from, he's creating characters motivated by players from the Russian Revolution, like the Tsar and Trotsky and all of this stuff. So it might be worth, like, just giving yourself a brief refresher on some of the events. You can look it up on Wikipedia or whatever.
Russian Revolution history.
These are things. Well, with Gilroy saying that, I think it's worthy to bring into our analysis, as opposed to just merely jumping to the conclusion like this is too on the nose because it matches up with current events, and also considering the fact that this was written a few years ago. The way it's landing is madly what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not convenient, but it's just
a coincidence.
It's wow. Is it? Yeah, right. Well, you have to ask yourself: is it a coincidence, or is it?
I'm talking. Look. The issues of immigration, undocumented workers. That goes beyond 2 years ago. It was clearly an issue when they were writing it. My point is that the Empire, we know they're hunting down and chasing down spies, people that they think might be part of this rebellion, which, by the way, even at this point, 4 years BBY, it's so fragmented. We'll get into the group over there, the Maya Pai Brigade or Maya Pei Brigade, and so what a colossal mess the rebellion is. I just didn't think they needed that added layer of undocumented. Now, someone in the chat reminded me that yes, there were credentials and things that were needed. We saw that in the Bad Batch. So they're definitely tracking people's movements. But every time they just flashed into this, again, real world, illegal immigration, undocumented worker stuff, I was just like, okay, all right. Let's get back to the fantasy.
I thought it was perfect. I thought it was great, man. I thought it was great. And having events in the real world that are marrying sort of the things happening in Star Wars, it's and vice versa, obviously. It's I find it to be a little more impactful, quite honestly.
I find it preachy and heavy-handed. That's what I find it. But to each his own.
I don't know. I don't know.
So they're on what's that planet? Mina Powell?
Mina Powell? Rao?
Yeah.
Mina Rao?
Mina Rao. And they're just waiting on Cassian. They know that he's on a mission, and they can't really do anything. And once the Empire starts their inspections on the planet, they're doing some, what do they call it? That they're
audit.
An audit, that's right. Yeah. One of the worst words in the English language. Nobody wants to be audited, much less the poor farmers there. But they're really in a place where they're stuck. They can't go anywhere. And so you start to feel that noose getting closer and closer and tighter around them because they know it's just a matter of time. And of course, we know that they sort of run out of time. But the tension that they build with the Empire there, and Jim, we were talking about, the Star Wars tropes. There's no Force in this. There's no Jedi. There's no Sith. But it's great when you see these garrisons of stormtroopers. I mean, you're instantly in the galaxy far, far away. And when they come in on the transport, that's amazing. When you see them on the Sinar facility, that's also amazing. So right out of the gate, this feels more Star Warsy than season 1 of Andor did, at least in terms of the visuals.
All the amazing action shots of that TIE prototype in action. Whew, that just reeks of Star Wars. Plus, you had throughout the 3 episodes, there were occasional blaster shootouts and stuff. That's totally Star Wars. Giant creatures hiding in the woods, very Star Wars. Or the jungle.
I thought we were going to see more of those creatures. There was one attack, but
right.
Yeah, but I
Was it a
like
reek?
that they stuck to that. It looked a lot like a reek, but when I was watching on with the closed captions, it was a different name, and I didn't jot it down, but because I looked for it, but it's very reeky. It was very
I think
reeky.
snatched up 2 or 3 grown men at once. At
Yeah.
once, just running by. Hey, that thing took both of our leaders. Both factions leaders got swept away in that. What were their names? Gertis and Barty. They both got swept up by that creature. Yeah.
I
Both of
love
them.
that you know the names of these cats. I started
I know
writing them
them
down.
all.
I'm like, Rowd was one of them, and then by the end,
Oh, here we
I
go.
felt the same way about with Naya. Like, these people aren't coming back. I don't care who these people are.
Rika, Gertis, Barty, Neek, Nazy, Rowd, Crab, Snee, Snur. That's the Maya Pay Brigade. We're the Maya Pay Brigade.
Happy, dopey, sneezy. Got any more of them there?
Everyone sign in. Hi, I'm Gertis. I'm Barty. Neek here. Hey, it's me, Nazy. Lazy Nazy, that's me. They call me Rowd because I get around. Crab. They call me Crab, and you don't want to know why. I'm Snee. I'm
all
Snur.
right.
All right, hey. That's the Maya Pay Brigade. Boy, that's hard to say. Maya Pay Brigade.
Maya Pay Brigade, named after
Maya Pay.
Named after their fallen leader, Maya Pay. And man, you talk about bad luck and being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Andor is there, Cassian, to meet Porco. Wow.
Yeah.
That's an unfortunate name. I really was sad that we didn't get to see Porco, because I've got a vision in my head of what Porco looks like. I'd love to see some visual confirmation.
I thought Porco was going to be a nickname for Porkins, and we would have seen good old Porkins at that moment.
Could happen.
Fan service. Maybe it was. No, it couldn't have been. Porkins blew up years later. So, no. But, they
still could have been a younger Porkins, 4 years younger.
Porco. Hey, Porco. I thought that was maybe just something they called him around the base. Yeah. And of course, Maya Pay, we heard of last season in Andor on episode, what episode is this? I'm looking at last season's notes. Andor 8. Saw Gerrera, when he was talking to Luthen, he name dropped Maya Pay along with Anto Krieger. But Maya Pay is they're a neo-Republican group of rebels. That's just what they call their pocket.
They're neo-Republican.
Yeah, neo-Republican. Yeah. Maya Pay. So, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Saw Gerrera later this season. One person we won't be seeing is Jimmy Smits, apparently, as Benjamin Bratt will be taking over the role of Bail Organa. I've yet to see full confirmation of that, but we know that a lot of critics and whatnot have received the full season of Andor, so I expect we'll get some other information about future episodes.
I just love that. Don't you just love that?
Yeah, but they can't report it though. They can't report it because then they would be breaking their embargo.
Right.
So they let it leak so people like us can speak openly about it without fear of any repercussion. So good old independence.
Yes.
It still exists in certain pockets of this universe.
So if I had to be critical of one element of this show in terms of, because I was saying how well paced it is, part of me felt like maybe we stayed with the Maya Pay Brigade a little bit too long. I would have liked to see, because I kept thinking, okay, what, I look at, okay, why is he showing us this? Why is Gilroy showing it? Clearly he's showing us the state of the rebellion at this point. I kept having to remind myself, wait a minute, are you saying that people like this within 4 years will coalesce, unite, and focus and have this incredible victory against the Empire? It's great. I love that. But after a while, I was just like, okay, these guys, I mean, part of me thought I was watching Deliverance. I mean, these guys were really, out there.
Remember, they hadn't eaten in 4 days. And Swank, I have traveled with you many times, and Nobody does hangry like Jason Swank, ladies and gentlemen.
I do like to eat.
If it's minutes past mealtime, you'll hear about it from our favorite Swankster.
Yeah. No, I have no tolerance for that. So I get it. I understand. And Cassian is trying to, like, it would be so easy for him to be, and this is what I think is really a testament to his character and the kind of person that he is. It'd be so easy for him to see them as just an obstacle and whatever it takes. I know he wants to get away, but he's at the same time, he's trying to help them. He's trying to give them tips, collect water. It's going to be dark. We got to keep moving. And they just get in their own way. And it really just comes down to a power play because apparently there was no specified chain of command. So once Maya Pei was killed, there was no successor. So just the disorganized nature of this rebellion. They're all idealists, mercenaries, probably very similar to Cassian, when we met him at the beginning of the series. And so how do you pull that thread to get everybody tight together? And that's going to be one of Luthen's biggest challenges. And we'll see, because I suspect that he's going to be the guy that's going to help finally bring order to this chaos.
Yeah, with the help of guys like Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma, obviously.
Now, I don't know. Do you think Saw, to me, these guys seem to me like the type of group that would be kind of hanging around Saw, a little bit more rough, a little bit more, less formal, not wearing their name, rank, and insignia on their orange flight suits.
Well, again, you're looking at a group of people who are under serious duress.
True.
They crashed, or somehow they ended up on Yavin, and Barty's brother dumped them there and ran away with the ship. That's what I'm assuming from the dialogue that I heard. And
the one guy's brother.
Right, the guy's brother. And so it seemed like people like Crab were loyal to this brother because he snapped when the brother was getting ripped on. I'm thinking maybe the brother had a plan to go get help or something. We don't know how Maya Pei died. Maybe there was some sort of revolt against her by these guys. But, that's just something I keep in mind all the time, that these guys are stranded on a jungle planet. They haven't had food for a couple of days. They've lost their leaders.
Do you think they ate Porco?
Did they eat Porco? Well, his body was never found.
They
never said what they did with Porco.
Well, they said they killed him.
They killed him. I don't know. I don't think they ate him. They probably just left him where they killed him, and that creature ate him up. But yeah, these guys are goofs. A friend of mine came in to see me today, and I asked her about Andor, and she's like, oh, she didn't really care for it because of these guys. She's like, these goofballs in the jungle playing Rochambeau. It was rock, paper, scissors, Yeah, right. And that was kind of a weird thing in this particular episode. I just thought it was weird. It didn't force me to jump into a full judgment condemning the show like my friend Julie was doing today.
Wait, that was it? Once she saw rock, paper, scissors, she's like, I'm out.
She had some issues with the pacing and other things too. Her head is clouded with so many other different franchise entertainment. She can't sit still for 2 seconds to concentrate on a Star Wars show. And I told her that. I said, your head is clouded, because she kept referencing Marvel and then Battlestar Galactica. And Marvel again, but a different Marvel. I'm like, I don't know what language you're even talking to me right now. Let's talk about Star Wars. And I just determined that it was clear that she was way too distracted by other franchise entertainment.
Yeah.
And she needs to let that go.
The sequence also gave us a beast, as you talked about, that reek looking thing.
Yeah.
I had my notes, Jim, maybe you said this, so forgive me, that Maya Pei, she was killed after an ambush, So
An ambush.
an ambush. So they were ambushed there. And
they were ambushed there, but it seems like no one else is on the planet. It seems like the planet.
They ambushed them and left, or they hid. Maybe there were a lot more of them. They certainly were not taking any chances with Cassian in just in case he actually was an Imperial. I mean, they were definitely assuming no matter what that he was an Imperial. So that kind of tells me that they were through some scary stuff, and they're not taking any chances at all. It didn't even seem like they were open to the possibility, most of them, that Cassian was who he said he was.
Well, because his story was kind of sketch. He shows up wearing Imperial gear in a TIE fighter.
A prototype, no less.
Right. It's just not a good look, if you're approaching a band of stranded guerrilla warriors on a jungle planet. It's, you roll up, they're never going to believe a word that comes out of your mouth.
Right.
Except he did know a lot of information about their operation. He revealed that it was his group that they were supplying the Maya Pei Brigade. And so Cassian had this information, but obviously when they pressed him, he couldn't confirm who he works for, what faction of the rebellion he works for. All of that stuff is hush hush per Luthen.
Right.
And other rebels are sloppy about it, as the Maya Brigade proved, with Cassian just merely suggesting they may be the Maya Pei Brigade. He guesses correctly, is a very educated guess, but still immediately they confirmed that for him.
Yeah.
And
I think he hears them say Maya.
Is that right?
The name, and I think he puts together the Maya. Maya Pei. Yeah.
The Maya Pei. He's like, I didn't tell him, right away. They're all just confirming it immediately, and
all
when they push back
at each other.
Well, that's the constant thing with them. This is a faction of rebels that are fractious themselves. They're falling to pieces. There's an obvious divide between the two. You have Team Gertis and Team Barty, and so there's a power struggle within their individual groups. So they're kind of the serpent is headless now without Maya Pei in charge, and so they're just gonna end up maneuvering themselves into doom as this continues without any good leadership.
Yeah, well, Selena in the chat here, she says, I think it was, to show how easy it is for groups to waste time with infighting. I think it's a great observation. Yes, it's very easy. But I think what it also does is it shows how desperate the rebellion is for leadership, Jim, as you were saying. And we know that it's going to be time here fairly soon for some of these folks, particularly Mon Mothma, to come out of the shadows. And, it might be this pending Gorman massacre that we're probably going to see here shortly that might be the actual event that allows her or forces her hand to come out and be vocally and visibly critical of the Empire. Speaking of Mon, oh boy, Mon and Tay are still trying to rekindle their relationship. And does this thing take a turn? And you get in a relationship with somebody and then they start telling you about their money problems right away. That is a big red flag. It's certainly a big red flag for Mon and Tay. I mean, not that they're not in a relationship, but it's implied that if Perrin wasn't in the picture and you got Tay telling Mon that, he's separated from his wife. We know they were childhood sweethearts. And Perrin is going around, even in season 1, implying that he thinks that there's something going on between the two of them. They have a lot of history together. But this is such a, in the way that you saw Cassian grow into this very determined and focused leader, Tay, I thought he seemed like a rock. I thought he seemed like a really solid guy in season 1. And this guy's falling apart. I mean, he takes a little ride at the end of the 3rd episode, a la Fredo at the end of Godfather 2. I think we know where that's going. But Jim, the main thing that I want to point out here is just with Genevieve, or I cannot say enough about what a tremendous actress this woman is. I mean, her face does so much acting, even when she's not speaking words. Her eyes, everything, you see her being pulled in all those directions, pulled as a mother, pulled as a wife, pulled as a senator, pulled as a member of the rebellion, pulled as a long lost love of Tay's. She's just, and she plays it where you feel, like you can relate to her. She's just universally relatable. And I think it's just a great test. I think they just cast the most. Who knew all those years ago at Revenge of the Sith that they would have struck gold with this actress? I think she's just fabulous.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a great story that's being told about her, with so many different twists and turns and depth. It goes very deep, her story.
Yeah.
And what she's trying to do by funding opposition to the Empire is essentially becoming her life. And I think we really see her go all the way in this episode. And the reason why I believe that is through the things you're talking about, the great acting chops, the facial expressions, the brilliant direction, and the way these scenes were shot and framed, and the lingering shots on Mon. And it's not just Mon in this show. It's characters like Dedra. It's characters like Luthen, who all seem to be presented with these moments in life where they have to absorb their personalities and become split personalities. There has to be a duality in the way they present themselves, because they're living essentially double lives right now. Mon is,
Skarsgård, though, when you talk about that, he at least has, and I'm not taking anything away from Stellan, but he at least has a different costume. He has a wig, and he has different clothes that he wears. Whereas Genevieve and Mon Mothma, she's got to show that duality all just in her face. She's wearing the same clothes. Her hair's done the same way. So it's she doesn't have a mask to hide behind. It's all her face.
And it's really a triple threat she's confronted with. She has to be a rebel, she has to be a senator, and she has to be a mother and a wife. So there's really three aspects of her personality that are all based. Two of them are being fully compromised by her role as a rebel and her role building up the Empire, or building up the rebellion against the Empire in these early days. Definitely the Gorman massacre will have something to do with it. We see that in Star Wars Rebels. I mean, that's basically the reason why she resigns from the Senate.
Right.
To begin with. So, and then she goes into hiding courtesy of the crew of the rebels. And then she sends out this galaxy-wide broadcast, essentially condemning the Empire, which we know is verboten in Palpatine's empire. So she immediately becomes a wanted person, and I think we're going to see all of the elements leading up to that moment reveal themselves here in Andor season 2, with the Gorman massacre being the main focus of this season. Each year we'll get closer to that Gorman massacre. Each year we'll have different elements being presented as the buildup as the buildup of Imperial oppression goes down on that planet. And, Krennic will be showing up probably each arc to give us like regular updates on how things are going as far as Imperial oppression on Gorman, the spiders, the minerals that they're seeking,
Calcite,
the anti-Gorman propaganda, and and everything behind it.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting situation that's being presented. And so I think as things start to build up toward that, we're going to see Mon become more and more vocal in the Senate. And as a result, become more and more invested in the rebellion itself, to the point. I think she already gets to the point of no return in this episode, where she realizes that the rebellion is her life and there is no going back. I think by the end of this episode, with her dancing at her daughter's wedding,
Yes.
Which a lot of people have criticized online. I've seen it, and I think these people are only seeing this stuff on surf. They're only taking it for
what are they
surface
interesting.
value.
I've heard some criticisms about the show so far.
Yeah.
I haven't heard this one. So what are they criticizing about the dancing at the end of the show?
Oh, they just felt like, well, the drinking shouldn't be in Star Wars. And I got news for you. Obi-Wan Kenobi was taking shots at that Outlander bar in episode 2 as they were hunting down.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
He was. That's okay.
Yes.
So no
we
drinking in Star Wars.
No
I mean,
drinking.
every
And she was-
culture, I think, known to mankind has had some form of alcohol or drug or getting high or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm not really seeing that. That's
Well,
not-
I mean, I heard some teetotaler Star Wars fans say that stuff.
oh, geez.
And
as
and
I'm sitting
then
here
the
drinking
other
a
one-
beer.
the other one is the criticism of Mon dancing. Number one, they say, well, that music has no place in Star Wars. Number one, I look at that music as being incidental music and not actual Star Wars soundtrack music, because it's what the jukebox droid is playing at the reception. And everyone is dancing to it. They're interacting with the music. They're even shouting "Niamos" at the same time, like some of those songs where everybody goes, Miami.
I thought it had I actually thought it had a very exotic vibe to me. I wasn't sitting there. That was not one of those times where I go, oh, I feel like I'm just watching something, on any other network, on any other type of show in our own real world. That was not one of those moments at all for me. And
People are reacting that way. Yes.
when you were saying that you thought that this was the moment when Mon goes all in, I was going to
Yes.
push back on you about it and say, no, I think it comes later. But as a parent, she literally sacrifices what she believes is the happiness of her daughter for the rebellion.
Yeah.
For the fight. So you're right. That dancing at the end is, I think, in some ways, her just letting go and letting loose of all of the buildup stress that came with this. It's done. It's done. The decision is done. And she even gives Lita an out at one point.
Yes.
And Lita becomes very resentful to her for even suggesting that.
Well, Mon realizes she's in an arranged marriage, and it's turned out to be a rather droll and loveless relationship at the end of the day. And Mon thinks that if Lita walks out, that'll be a strong protest against the whole traditional system and how it doesn't work and how things need more time. Relationships need more time before massive commitments like that go down, as proved by Mon's loveless relationship with Perrin. I think there's a little something simmering under the surface though between Mon and Perrin, but maybe we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But when Mon has left Luthen, and and her daughter, they've all had these conversations that were both devastating to Mon.
Right.
Mon realizes she's lost her daughter. Her daughter is going to become a Skulden. She's not going to be a Mothma anymore, and she's going to be absorbed by this gangster's family. And when she tried to fix that, she was denied by the daughter. And then she talks to Luthen and realizes, hey, there's going to be no negotiations with Tay in some meeting on Coruscant next week. Tay ain't going to be making it home.
What
from
a powerful, Gilroy. What a great line he wrote for Luthen when she's because they're talking about, he's kind of playing along at first. The number. What's his number? That'll get him to lay off and not be a threat or a risk. He never really threatens Mon, but it's sort of implied he was feeling undervalued, and he's had some bad investments. A lot of those investments have gone bad because of the work of the rebellion. And it's such a great line when she says something to, I don't understand when Luthen is implying that they're going to have to do something, and Luthen just looks at her and says, "How nice for you."
Yeah,
That your brain, your mind, you're still pure enough. You're still a good enough person that your mind doesn't even go there, where my mind was 2 days ago when you told me about this problem initially. You were so right. There's never going to be any negotiation. There was never going to be a number that Luthen, because he's too much of a risk,
Exactly. And hearing Luthen respond to Mon that way, how nice it must be for you, because she's still kind of naive and a little ignorant about the way things are really working in Luthen's world. And it just immediately takes you back to that great monologue Luthen had in the bowels of Coruscant when he was talking to that inside man with the ISB in season 1. And Luthen revealed things about himself. I'm condemned to a life with no sunrises. I'm condemned. I am living. I am fighting fire with fire, and that makes me essentially just as bad as my enemy. But that's the only way this is going to work. He was revealing all of the way that his soul has been compromised and shattered by his commitment to the rebellion, and he sees in Mon a representation of maybe the Luthen of the past before he got involved in this struggle against the Empire. And Luthen,
he was more naive then, like she is.
Yeah, right. He was just, living his life and not caring about the big picture. But so Mon has this discussion with Luthen, and she walks away from that realizing that a death warrant had been signed for her childhood friend, former crush, Tay Kolma. So she bumps into her friend Renee, who has a shot for Mon.
Yeah, right.
And
We've
Mon,
all been there.
And Mon, as the heroes do, they get reluctant when presented with the threshold. They don't want to cross the threshold. Well, Mon takes a hit of that and realizes to herself in that moment that she needed to be numb, and she needed to remove herself from reality just a little bit, because she is now accepting her lifestyle now. She's understanding the price that needs to be paid. So Mon dances. She lets her hair down, and that's the threshold moment. She's in a loveless marriage. Her daughter hates her. Her confidence are weak and a liability like Tay. Being a senator means nothing in the days of the Empire. There's nothing she can do. She's reached the edge, and now she's been pushed over. Her lifelong friend is going to be dead, and her life will never be the same. She is now fully committed to the rebellion. There's no going back. And
she has no one left.
Her dancing, rave dance. There's no one left. All she has is that dance in that moment.
Yeah,
that's all she has.
I think she saw Tay as sort of her plan B. When the you know what hit the fan, she was going to leave Perrin. She'd be with Tay, and at least she would have him. But it doesn't work out that way. He quasi betrays her. She realizes, and again, that wonderful acting with the Genevieve O'Reilly does when he says that word about, feeling undervalued. Her face just changes immediately, and she realizes she's being shaken down. She's being blackmailed, essentially.
She realizes Tay's a mess now. He's an alcoholic. His marriage is in shambles, and he's lost all this money because of rebellion activity going on that scared other investors away, making his investment go down the toilet. So he wants some sort of compensation for the risks he's taken and the things he's lost. And it's understandable, but he reveals that he's been going to Dabo Sculdun, and it sounded like he wanted to have more of a business relationship with Dabo in the future. And that compromises everything, because then if he tells Dabo exactly what's up with Mon and her connection to the rebellion, then it's over.
Yeah.
It's obviously over. It's over. Mon is dead. So,
and Mon will lead them straight to Luthen. I think Mon is one of the most vulnerable points in the whole chain to
So,
Luthen.
Well, there might be a money trail too that wouldn't even give Mon the chance to turn in Luthen if things really got fully uncovered. But it sounds like Davil Skulden has done a good job laundering Mon's money
Right.
and doing some fancy work with her bank accounts to remember money was missing, and we know the Imperials are auditing everyone, and Mon is in the spotlight.
Right.
So so it all comes down to her in that moment and that dance is her crossing the threshold. She's letting her hair down, she's letting it all loose, and that symbol of her dancing and everything is the freedom she's had, if you want to call it that, from her previous life. She felt trapped in the marriage to parents. She feels trapped in her position within the Senate, trapped and powerless there. And she also feels kind of trapped by Luthen to a degree. And so I mean,
their interactions together are always very interesting because there's an air of resentment in the way she talks to Luthen. I do think that she really part of her wishes that he never darkened her door. I think he's an easy target for her to take out some of those frustrations on.
I think you're right. I think you're right. She is a little bit of a punching bag for Luthen, isn't she?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
I think that he just represents all the chances she's taken, all the risks that she's taken. And I mean, she completely freaks out when he shows up at the wedding in the first episode.
Well, yeah, I mean, her and Val, for that matter. You know,
and that's a huge. Talk about coming out of the shadows. That is a huge move for Luthen to show up at such a high-profile event. This is kind of like you think of like it's a royal wedding in one sense, but it's high profile political figures. You think about like the Kennedy weddings of the 60s. Or the 50s, actually, when they were all getting married. So, everybody who's everybody and anybody who's anybody is going to be there. And so for Luthen to show up, he's taken a huge risk, but he can't resist the opportunity to, these are the movers and shakers of the galaxy far, far away. He knows he's going to hear things. He's going to be privy to conversation, and he wants a front row seat. And I think he wants to keep an eye on this whole situation because the whole, so much of the funding of the rebellion hinges on this wedding happening.
And well, yes. And the opportunity to see Mon in her own environment, on her own turf, surrounded by her own family. It's an opportunity Luthen couldn't turn down. And you hear it in the dialogue when Clea is talking to Val. She says, I always wondered where you came from. This is a good way to kind of vet out these people they've been working with. And I'm sure Luthen and Clea do a lot of vetting out, but to actually be there in Mon's home at one of the biggest moments
the day of your daughter's wedding.
Yeah, right.
Corleone.
I was getting Godfather vibes from time to time. With some of the tension that was building up around this wedding, especially the stuff with Tay and all of that, and Luthen maneuvering his way through everything.
The
appearing as the art dealer, as the art dealer with the Shandy Burl,
right? The big statue thing.
Nothing subtle about that. Nothing subtle. You couldn't just bring a set of crystal, Luthen. You had to bring a 25,000-year-old lost relic of the Chandrillan past. I do want to give a little nod to when they were revealing the background of that particular that sculpture, this Shandy Merle, one of 12 temple figures stolen from Chandrilla 25,000 years prior by the Rakatan invaders. And that's pure EU, man. That's from the Dark Horse comics, not Tales of the Jedi. What was that one? It was set way back early, the earliest days of the Republic. And of course, this could be possibly hinting at James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi film, should that ever get made. This it might be really tapping into some good old-fashioned expanded universe lore to shape the story that James Mangold may be telling, just simply by the shout out we got here in Andor.
Interesting.
So,
Hey,
that's a good Easter.
I'm gonna hop over here to the phones because Michael from Atlanta, he thinks Luthen is maybe slipping up a bit. And since we were just talking about Luthen and him stepping out for this wedding, go ahead, Michael. Thanks for waiting. You think Luthen is slipping?
Man, maybe a little bit. I mean, just surprised that Cassian got there and had no idea how to fly that ship. Obviously had planned for a totally different ship.
Right.
And I mean, when he is able to get that call through to Clea, he's just like, what is going on? I mean, I know a lot of people don't think Luthen's going to survive this season. And I mean, I don't know what you guys think. That seemed like step one. I think he might be slipping a little.
Wow. So that is true. So there is that moment when Cassian gets in touch with Clea and is like, okay, so it's the wrong ship. The guy never, the guy was killed that I was supposed to, I almost lose my life with the Maya Pi Brigade. It does seem that the details weren't there. And you're thinking that that's a Luthen slip up.
I mean, just in contrast to the Aldani heist, I mean, he had everything figured out, and he even brought Cassian on. The last loose thread was piloting the ship to get out of there. And this one, it was just like, good thing Cassian can fly by the seat of his pants. I don't know, maybe it was bad intel, but I think it might have been Luthen slipping.
Wow.
That's interesting. Well, I mean, Naya was there, and she was their inside person. At Sinar, Naya, the TIE inspector.
It's all coming back to Naya.
I mean, when she saw that TIE fighter was in there, maybe that should have raised some red flags with old Naya, and she should have somehow connected with the rebellion, or even just told Cassian, hey, the ship's a little bit different than the one we thought that was going to be here, just so you have a heads up. But instead, he goes in there, he's like, what? No, this is what? He didn't know what the hell he was looking at. The seat itself probably would have taken me a couple of days to figure out.
Matt would still be there trying to figure that out.
Yeah. I can't get the seat just right, stuck in the driveway for days. But, there are a lot of different moving parts here. And, sometimes when you have a situation like this where you have people working as double agents, or they're working undercover or something, sometimes you can only just take the person who is there at your disposal. It's not like you can really draft the best of the best. They get wind that there's somebody disgruntled working on Sinar that wants to help the rebellion. They don't really say, well, can they do 50 push-ups, and can they do 100 jumping jack? There's no test. It's just like, yes, sign them up right now.
They'll take
someone on the inside.
Yeah, it's like
they'll take anyone, even the most incompetent.
Right.
Jar Jar Binks could have been working at Sinar, and Luthen would have signed him up.
Right. Well, Michael, hey, thanks for the call, man. That was perfect timing as we were just running down what was going on with Luthen in this arc. Appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with us.
We'll try to get people on if you guys want to call and talk about what we're talking about in that moment.
Yes.
Please do so. Use our conversation as kind of a guide to what we want to hear from you. So hopefully we'll get to everything. So everyone will get a chance to discuss what they want to discuss.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of comments that are big, generalities about the show, and that's great. But that's something we kind of have to wait until towards the end of the program, and we'll get to. But as Max said, the more specific point you want to make, the better, because we're going to try to get through all of these things, including this one. This was the biggie. We didn't have to wait very long, did we, for Ben Mendelsohn to show up as Orson Krennic, and this big meeting that is totally off the books, off the record. No one knows they're there. It never happened. They were never there. And the way that he talks and these people talk about dispatching an entire planet of beings, of people, is absolutely brutal. I mean, it was sobering. Now, I guess as fans, we always assume that this is what the Empire believed and felt and thought, but to hear it verbalized as they're eating hors d'oeuvres, I mean, dang, the way that these the elite talk about the plebeians, underneath their feet. It was real. It was sobering. It definitely was sobering as they're talking about the Gorman and their need for this rare mineral, calcite. And apparently it's vital for the Emperor's quote unquote energy program.
At one point though, Krennic says that they want control of Gorman to get access to the valuable mineral. The guy called it, I wrote it down here, deep substrate foliated calcite.
Yeah.
It goes great in milk if you stir it in there. Well, the calcite. So, but he says without. Now, maybe I'm misinterpreting this, but he doesn't say specifically what he's talking about. But he says it's needed to coat the reactor lenses. I assume he's talking about on the Death Star. This is a mineral they have to mine to make the construction of the Death Star complete. They need this calcite.
Yes. But he's kind of cagey on it. He doesn't come out and say this is for the construction of the Death Star.
No, he just says it says needed to coat the reactor lenses. The calcite is needed to coat the reactor lenses. Well, reactor to what? I'm assuming he's talking about the Death Star.
Yes.
Because that is his baby.
Yeah.
We know that, This is my achievement, Night Wolf. So, oh boy, did he have the lisp going in this episode? It was longer than his cape, the lisp. It was amazing.
So, in order to, this is something that a term I've never heard of, this idea of gouge mining. I don't know if this, I'm not a geologist, so I have no idea if this is a real thing, but to extract it in the volume that they need to, they have to do this, what they call gouge mining. And that is, according to one of the officers there, a scientist there, could likely destabilize the core of the planet and cause its destruction. And they don't want to evacuate the Gorman because, well, that would be messy and it would take a long time and it would it would cause a lot of talk. And they don't want any of that because all of this stuff has to be off the books. And Jim, this isn't the first planet that we've seen the Empire completely raise in its ascendancy to consolidate all power and to create the Death Star, for that matter. I mean, we saw what they did to Geonosis in the Clone Wars, and so they're definitely leaving a path of destruction. So the reason that he got these brain trusts there is he's basically telling them, this is what we're going to do. Now we have to figure out a way to explain it all and to make this look like it's necessary or needed. And so he wants to create this propaganda campaign to show these Gormans as arrogant, secretive. And he uses the analogy of the spiders that are spinning that web there on Gorman. So he's dehumanizing them. And that's one of the first steps to make it okay to eradicate a race or a species is to dehumanize it, and that creates this detachment, and then you can advocate for the next step as well. They're like bugs; they have to be swatted out, they have to be stepped on, and but what's kind of interesting is that Dedra is sitting there thinking that that's not enough. I mean, she saw what happened on Ferrix. She saw that this stuff isn't quite as easy to pull off as possible. and she throws out the idea of really kind of what we see happen in the Clone Wars, where you've got Palpatine working both sides. And so she's advocating for the Empire to essentially create like a phony insurgency that would exist on Gorman that would make, I think she says, like bad choices or something like that.
She said she suggested to Krennic to use Gorman rebels to do the wrong thing and trust them to do the wrong thing.
Right.
And he's just like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's better than propaganda. Yeah, I like that. I like it.
The other thing that's really revealing in this scene is that, Krennic approaches Dedra. He's got his eye on her. He's heard that she's the real deal. And he makes sure that she doesn't leave without telling him the truth, what she really thinks. And so I thought that was a little bit interesting with Krennic. He's not, I mean, yes, he certainly, I'm sure, loves lackeys and bootlickers, but he really wanted to hear what Dedra really felt, because I think he respects her opinion on this matter. And I think she's being advocated a lot through the old guy with the mullet. I can't think of his name. Yeah.
Yeah,
Partagas?
Partagas, yes.
Oh, Partagas, yeah.
Partagas. I love that actor, too, who plays him.
Oh, he's wonderful.
He's talking to that one guy who's in charge of the whole mining operation. And the guy's like, yeah, we can, as soon as we get it all there, we can be up and running in a matter of weeks. And Partagas just went, oh, yeah. Because like you could tell that he was seeing some financial opportunity there for him. Right. To get, there's some insider trading that's going to be going on at the Coruscant Stock Exchange the next day.
Buy me 1,000 more shares of Calkite.
Right. And also shares in whatever this mining operation is all about.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And you're right. It's just the casual way in which they're discussing the fate of 800,000 people over 9 cities on this planet. There's this Admiral Daysar, who he's the one with the white hair, and he's the one who suggests, let's just unleash a plague or stage some sort of natural disaster.
Yeah.
And the other guy's like, oh, we figured that all out, and we realized if we release a plague, then we'll catch the plague, and it'll be.
They sit and war game this stuff out. Yeah, we gamed that out, and it's incredible.
Yeah. But the problem is that Gorman is a very well-known. It's not a remote planet. It's very well known, and it has mad political power. So Partagas fears they will not go quietly, and thus the conundrum for Krennic. And he says, well, that's why you guys are here. That's why I brought you guys here. You're supposed to figure this out. This is our think tank going on here. So the one guy stands up and says, yeah, well, let's weaponize galactic opinion and tell everyone that the people of Gorman are like the spiders. They have a lot in common.
Yes, right.
What? Well, I don't like those spider people hanging around me, Weaponize galactic opinion.
Right.
So, and the Empire's already hard at work. They're building a new armory on the planet, and it's all happening very quickly. So that's us checking in with Krennic. I predict a Krennic meeting once per arc, and then we'll get our dose of Krennic.
Okay.
And he'll give us updates on what's going on with Gorman. Then the final arc will be where it all hits the fan.
All right, so you see no Gorman massacre until the fourth arc.
I think so. I don't know how that times out with the Rebels cartoon show. So maybe, because I think that may have happened a couple or 2 or 3 years before A New Hope and the original trilogy kicks off. So I would maybe not. Maybe the second to last arc will feature the Gorman massacre. Mm-hmm. And that will lead us then to the final arc being the full fallout and all of the threads connecting the series to Rogue One. So that's how I would do it. Yeah, I wouldn't end on the Gorman massacre. if I were Tony Gilroy. Listen, there's a big difference between Henry Gilroy and Tony Gilroy. Huge difference. So I don't want to make that confusion happen again, because both the guys work on Star Wars. So.
Right. And no relation, I don't believe. No relation.
No relation. No relationship. No. I looked up, I broke into the ISB computers and looked them both up.
Okay.
And, them and Uncle Harlow. I looked up both of them at the same time.
Uncle Harlow.
Uncle Harlow. You know what? That actress, she's amazing. My friend Steve said he saw her on stage in London. In some place. He said she was like the most foul-mouthed actor he's ever seen on stage in his life. And she is just wonderful in this show.
Yeah, she really is. And we definitely need to talk a little bit about the dinner scene and what's going on with Dedra and Syril. The other night, of course, our Jedi Council text thread was buzzing, and I got one sort of off the thread from FJ because he wasn't sure how far you and Kyle were into the watch, and he just said, that woman is the scariest character in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, the actress is Catherine Hunter is her name. She's from New York. And she was in a Harry Potter movie, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix.
Oh,
yeah.
Who does she play?
I have to look that up. She was also in the Coppola movie from last year, Megalopolis. And she's very foul-mouthed on stage in London, from what I heard Steve say. She was in Tron Uprising. Oh, just her voice. Just her voice. In Harry Potter, she played Mrs. Arabella Figg.
Mrs.
Harry Potter.
Figg. Oh, okay.
Figg. Yeah, the lady.
All
Figg.
right. Yep. Okay. It's been a while. It's been a while. But when we saw at Star Wars Celebration Japan, we saw both the actor that plays Syril. What's his name? Got it right here somewhere. Syril, where are you, Syril? Kyle Soller. Yeah, and Denise Goff, who plays Dedra. They were talking a lot at Celebration about just how awkward that they needed to make the relationship seem, and the way Tony was there on set, I'm sure, as well as Ariel Kleiman, staging it in a certain way, and they had to like hold like gazes at each other and just in such a way they were like creeping each other out, but they needed to play this surprisingly functional, dysfunctional, these two very dysfunctional people in this surprisingly functional relationship. And I guess I don't know if they're the poster children for Imperial, marriages or I think they're just living together. I think they're living in sin.
Of course. Yes. We have not seen Mon rave dance at their wedding yet.
Right.
So yes, nor have we seen Edie. And I bet that Edie can cut a rug when she wants to, after she has several glasses of spiced tea. Syril was so shocked. Mother, spiced tea. She just drips with this inauthentic.
Passive aggressive is
to
really what it is. Yeah. I mean, she's just a mother-in-law from hell. Because she's equally cruel. There's one thing to have the mother-in-law that just, their kid can do no wrong. You're always, you as the dirty in-law, you're the one that's the problem. But she takes it to both of them. But more so, she really dresses Syril down a lot. And I gotta say, Dedra really endeared herself to me by really sticking up for him. She doesn't want to hear him torn down, but you also get the sense that it's more about her not wanting to be stressed out by every time this woman comes to dinner, every time she enters the scene, comes to their apartment. And so she lays down the law as soon as Syril takes a little break.
Appropriate.
He has to go lay down. Like he's
Oh,
he's so undone. She
Haven't we
stresses
all
him out
been
so
there?
much.
I mean, haven't we all been there with our parents at one point or another? All we had to do is just get out of the room and lay down in the fetal position for a few minutes, just to get our what together with our parents or any family member, really, for that matter. It's just poor Syril, man, poor Syril. And I'll tell you that Dedra, she is something else. I think she has one of the greatest scowls in the history of motion picture.
Absolutely.
The scowl. And so when she's looking at her outfit for the evening and sort of holding it up and look at herself in the mirror, she puts on this big smile because she knows she's going to have to put on a show for Edie, which might come to her as a little unnatural. So she has to practice, much like Luthen looking in the mirror when he puts the wig on.
Oh, yeah,
So
right. And does his little...
But Luthen with the smile... that works for him. Dedra with the smile, it was like, oh my God, she becomes an entirely different person when she smiles. I guess that's the case with Luthen too, but with her, it was so shocking to see her with that beautiful grin.
In the Addams Family movie when they forced her to smile, and it's like she's being tortured. Yeah. And then when she finally gets the smile and everybody's creeped out, they're like, no, please stop smiling. That's how I was with...
But her smile was beautiful. Dedra looked, I mean, she had a wonderful smile. She had just this warm look on her face. But it was fleeting. And then back to that scowl of hers. And she's the best scowl in the business, I think.
Really.
And so when Syril goes out to lay down for a minute and gather himself, she reads the riot act to Edie and says, all right, listen, this is how it's going to be. Okay, I've heard enough of this. Game ends right now.
Right.
That's what I love about Dedra. She doesn't suffer fools. She has to deal with Imperial bureaucrats like Krennic and Partagaz and all of them. Edie's a walk in the park for her, she sees right through her. And then especially having that Uncle Harlow information in her back pocket, knowing that with one text, she can bring a whole world of heat down on old Uncle Harlow if she wants to, and Edie for that matter as well.
Yeah, which we speculated last season that old Uncle Harlow probably had, connections, gangland connections, and underworld connections, and all of that. So
when she dressed down Edie, it reminded me of two things. Other television shows. One was in the final season of The Office when Dwight Schrute was living on a beet farm with his aunt, and she was a real holy terror. And he brought Angela home to meet the aunt, and Dwight left, and the aunt was like really mean and just gross, didn't bathe, was crude and rude. And then when he comes back, Angela had whipped her into shape. Her hair's all clean. She's all clean. She's saying thank you and please and all this stuff. And Dwight's just like, what the? And there's even a physical similarity between Angela from The Office and Dedra Meero, but I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah.
Then the other one is Curb Your Enthusiasm. When Larry David briefly had a relationship with Vivica A. Fox. And Vivica A. Fox also didn't suffer any fools and would get in their face, waving the finger, don't you talk to me that way. And so they showed a scene of Larry standing in his front door, and Susie Essman is on the porch just laying into Larry, telling him what a loser he is. And then all of a sudden, Vivica A. Fox shows up in the door frame with a, don't you talk to my man like that, and really laying in on Susie Essman. And so those two moments, I think, were captured here in this moment with Dedra and Edie, and I loved it. I loved the tension of the whole dinner sequence, and also the comic relief it provided in a story arc that seriously needed a little bit of comic relief.
Who would have thought
it really did
that the comic relief in this show and this arc was going to be Syril and Dedra? That they were, with Edie, obviously, but
she's the key to all the comedy, and I thought it was hilarious. I really did. I love the darkness of that humor too. So
yeah, and I love this this look here in this screenshot of the look that Syril is giving to his mother. Just total disdain, disgust. Yeah.
At one point, he takes the fondue fork and just like boom, stabs his meat, and then stands up real calmly and puts it in the fondue pot. It was excellent. I love that kind of tension, and to me, it was pure humor. I thought it was hilarious, and also a little character development here too. You know, we see Syril. He made it to the Bureau of Standards or whatever, wherever he was at, and he's risen up through the ranks.
He's a manager,
he is a supervisor, a manager, whatever he is. Telling people that, you know, that you can get whatever, you know, you get what you put into this job, and that kind of rap. And Cyril's always been very driven in trying to prove himself. Obviously, his mom has beaten him into that kind of place in his life where he's constantly fueled by the desire to prove himself.
Yeah.
And matter. And Syril wants to matter. I predict he will become an important element for the Empire at some point. He's not going to be working in these mundane positions in Dedra Mira's shadow. He's going to actually become someone of value to the Empire. That's my prediction for Syril.
I think one of them's going to turn. I think one of them is going to, and that's going to be, I think, their unhappy ending, because right now what they have works. But, you know, when I was watching the show and I was seeing her kind of quasi defend Syril with the mother, as I was saying earlier, I also couldn't help but a lot of this was motivated by the fact here she gets done. She gets home after hearing about how she's going to help cover up the complete annihilation of like you said, almost 1 million people on a planet across 9 cities, and she's got that on her mind, and she's got to suffer this woman. She's got to sit there and hear this woman insult their home and insult the fact that they haven't had her over for so long, and browbeat her man.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, we all have to deal with that balance between work and home life. You know, I mean, we all have to deal with it.
Yeah, right. Of course.
Even the high-ranking Imperial officers have to deal with it to a degree. So, you know, it's funny, you know, the people who are some of the most powerful people in the world of business or politics or even like military and stuff, they all have to go home to their families, where the second they walk in through that front door, they get stripped of rank real fast. And it's a humbling experience for a lot of these people of power to have that family life, and why a lot of people of power really cherish their family life, because it helps keep them grounded. So even Dedra in Star Wars, you know, a member of Palpatine's Galactic Empire, has to manage the relationship between the work life and the home life. Do you think Partagas considers Dedra to be his work wife? I don't know.
Well, you know what? Actually, something that is revealed between Partagas and Dedra is that she's off the Axis case. And that kind of gave me a little bit of James Bond vibes, you know. You're off Operation Bedlam 007, you know. Yes, she's off the case of Axis, because according to what's his name? Partagas. Partagas says you haven't come up or produced anything.
Right. And
you have no evidence that this person exists. 3 years, right?
So just through that little bit of dialogue, we get filled in with a lot of information. Number one, Luthen is as good as advertised. He's been able to elude these guys for 2 years. And I think the Anto Krieger thing really helped Luthen develop a lot of separation between himself and the Empire, because they were starting to piece things together. And then Luthen conveniently had a situation where Anto Krieger was going to be the fall guy, and potentially the Empire would assume Anto Krieger was Axis, not Access, like Access Hollywood, no, Axis, like like the Allies versus the Axis, World War II, So that's who she was chasing down. And it just shows how competent he is and how the Empire really took the bait and probably believed for a matter of time that Anto Krieger was indeed the person they were searching for, that he was Axis. And then, but Dedra wasn't satisfied, so she kept chasing it. And Partagas is saying, he's giving her great career advice. Hey, listen, you've been working on this thing and you're proving no results. This is going to eventually make you look bad. So talk about it. The next time you want to make a big deal about Axis, make sure you do it after you catch him.
Right.
Then start making a big deal about. For now, just let it rest. But she's not going to let it rest. She doesn't want to work on this Gorman project. She feels it might be a little bit too far reaching or whatever, which might actually indicate that Dedra has something of a moral compass that a lot of Imperials don't possess, because she doesn't want to be on board with this. She really likes the niche she's carved for herself is being the person hunting Axis. So she wants to get Luthen, but is going nowhere. And so she's going to go to Gorman. She's going to run that whole operation. Yet I don't imagine she's going to abandon the chase for Luthen.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think that we know that there are really evil people, obviously Palpatine himself running this, running the Empire. But most of these people are not complete psychopaths. I think Krennic is. I think Tarkin is to a degree. But I think your rank and file Imperials believe they're doing the right thing. They're preserving and protecting things like law and order. They're keeping the galaxy together. I don't think they're waking up every day and saying, oh, what a wonderful day to be evil and inflict some pain on people. So I think you're right. And again, when we talk about the strength of the actors in this show, which is off the charts, and I'm saying this not just as a Star Wars fan, I think these are some of the best performances in any modern television series that I've ever seen. I mean, pound for pound, these actors are phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
When are we going to start talking about Emmy nominations for Andor? Because that needs to be in the mix, and not for technical awards.
Right.
I'm talking acting. I'm talking writing. I'm talking cinematography. I'm talking directing. I did say acting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did I say acting? If I didn't say acting, I'm talking acting. So those are all the things that really need to be acknowledged by the stuffy Emmy committee, because they don't acknowledge Star Wars outside of technical and wardrobe and makeup. And that needs to change. And a show like Andor can make that change, because it is of the highest quality. And it is the apex of Star Wars television. The apex.
So with Dedra, I did get the feeling that maybe this Gorman thing was just a step too far, and she seemed uncomfortable, but she certainly wasn't going to tell Krennic that. So when he asked what her opinion was, she gave it to him, her honest assessment. This is going to take more than just propaganda. You're going to actually have to get in there, get your hands dirty, and manipulate the situation to come out to the way you want it to.
Yeah. She doesn't believe in pussyfooting around this thing, which is essentially what those two guys from the Ministry of Enlightenment were trying to get across. Hey, we can just what was the word? Weaponize galactic opinion. Dedra is somebody who believes more in tangible advancements and manipulating others to do the dirty work of the Empire, is essentially what she's suggesting. And quite honestly, that in tandem with propaganda could be a very powerful weapon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As far as what's going on Mina Raalo, throughout the show, it's really just them waiting for Cassian. They're trying to avoid the Imperials that show up, but inevitably they can't avoid it, any longer, and Bix meets an Imperial officer. What is that scumbag's name? I have it written down here. What's
Lieutenant
that?
Kroll. Lieutenant Kroll. C-R-O-L-E. Lieutenant Kroll. Yeah.
I thought
The
that
one-
that Kroll was the farmer that betrayed them.
No, that was Keller or Kellen. Keller. I think Keller. Yeah. No, Kroll.
I have those. Are you sure I have those reversed, or do you have those reversed?
What are you going to trust, AI or your partner of almost 20 years here on the podcasting show?
AI? What are you talking about?
Oh, I thought you used AI to gather some notes for this stuff. You said so last time on Skeleton Crew.
I sit there and write it out and watch the subtitles, but okay. So
No. Hearing you say that makes me actually feel really good, because there was a situation when we were doing the Skeleton Crew after show when you said, "Oh, AI gave this to me all incorrectly." It was about cast members or something. I'm sorry, Jason. I'm not calling you out. I swear to God, I love you. But it gives me great relief to hear that from you too. And also, let me just say one thing. I didn't hear a peep out of you as far as reviews, critiques, opinion, or anything having to do with these 3 episodes of Andor before we turned on these mics tonight. Okay? And I am so happy that I am coming into this so fresh with no idea what direction you're going to go in or anything. I just love it. So sorry if I'm pulling the curtain back too much, and sorry, Jason, if I
never pull it back too far.
I think if I called you out on the AI, I don't mean to do that. I'm not trying to do. I'm just happy you're not getting notes from AI anymore, because AI will take you down the wrong direction. So maybe I'm wrong. What are they saying in the chat? Was the character name Creole? Because I can't do Creole. Was the Imperial officer, says the Sabersmith. Jason Seiler says
Sabersmith says it.
He says Krull. He just says Krull. K-R-U-L-L. Wasn't that a movie from the 80s? Krull? I could have sworn it was like a sci-fi movie from the 80s. Krull.
Whoever he is, he has a very punchable face.
Yeah,
maybe one of the most punchable faces in all of the Empire. And
Lieutenant Krull. Yeah. Absolutely. Great casting, too. If you wanted to hate a character more, you couldn't have done a better job than the casting they did on Lieutenant Krull. He just looking at him. You said it best, Jason. What's the first thing you think of? You just want to punch the guy. You just want to give him a sock right in the face. And you know what? I'm saying that as a compliment to the actor himself. He brought punchability back to Star Wars Imperial officers. And the last time we saw an Imperial officer so impactful was in Andor season 2, the penultimate episode, when Andor had to sneak into that Imperial base. He had to remove his helmet and deal with the guy. He's a well-known character actor, and I can't recall his name right now, but he was absolutely wonderful in that role. This is Star Wars television bringing us yet another Imperial officer scumbag to the highest degree, and that's Lieutenant Krull.
Yeah, almost ascending to the heights of Richard Brake in
There
Mando.
he is. That's the man's name. Yep, Richard Brake. He is just a great character actor, and he played an amazing Imperial officer in Andor season 2, and adding to the ranks of all-time Imperial scumbags is Lieutenant Krull.
Yeah, because he comes sniffing around the farm there where Brasso and Bix and Will are working, and starts asking questions, and it's not all about the audit. He's auditing things, but he's not just auditing what it is that they're visas. And yeah, he's got his eye on Bix, and then the second time there's a little bit of foreshadowing with that first meeting, and then by the time he shows up the second time, starts asking about the husband and all of that this is going to go bad, and it goes very bad for Bix, and there is an attempt at had a sexual assault in the episode, and this has got a lot of people talking online and elsewhere in Star Wars fandom circles about whether or not this was a step too far. You talk about the Empire stepping too far. Was this near, you know what, starts with an R and ends with an E? Was it too much? Was it too much for Star Wars, this implication of what these Imperials might be up to on some of these planets?
Well, I don't know if it was an implication. I think it was pretty obvious as to what's going on. I thought it was
that it could be more widespread. I don't think that they would show this if they weren't implying that it was indicative of a pattern of behavior. They wouldn't just show this one errant guy.
I saw a lot of comments online from the fan base. Believing Star Wars has crossed the line now by introducing this type of assault into the franchise. Does everyone forget the time Jabba put Leia in a gold bikini and put a chain around her neck and then dragged her toward him as he stuck his tongue out? That wasn't sexual assault. Sure, I guess coming from a puppet, it makes it all a little bit easier to handle. But we know that this is a galaxy that is at times rather lawless, like the Wild West, and where those who do maintain control over things sort of take power into their own hands and take what they want. And those are that's a sad reality of all war. I didn't realize that there was going to be such backlash to this until I actually saw the backlash. I thought it was very compelling acting, great drama.
Oh, I got lost in it.
I know
it got lost in the moment.
I was at the edge of my seat
until after that I really started to question it. How did I really feel about it showing up in Star Wars? And
now,
I agree. I think it was too much. I think it was.
Well, I mean, the attack itself, let's face it, Bix kicked his ass. She killed him. I mean, she did more than,
of course.
She killed him, and he was armed and she wasn't, until she grabbed that wrench and repurposed the usage of that wrench for things beyond mechanical needs and smacked him upside the head, not once, but twice. But I mean, her life was at risk and everything. I just wonder if the backlash would have been a little more tempered if they didn't have the cutaway shot to Bix saying to the other Imperial, he tried to rape me. It's like, okay, I think we all saw that. But I think what Gilroy is trying to say to us is this. She said it to the Imperial officer, whose name was Pike, who was the driver. And he comes out with pistol drawn, pointing at her. She accuses this officer of trying to sexually assault her. And the Imperial officer is not at all shaken by that. He demands Bix to come out. He's going to arrest her because all he sees is a fallen officer. And I mean, he's just doing his job. But I think that Gilroy wanted to show us how cold-hearted, truly cold-hearted, and just absolutely dismissive and detached of the plight of the regular people in the galaxy the Empire actually is. This is not, you can say, well, there's innocent people all through the Empire, but all it takes is one person to make a difference. And that driver could have been that one person who could have made a difference. But no, he just went along with the typical Imperial game plan. So I think they're all marching to the beat of the same drum in the Empire. And, anytime that there's fans or even Star Wars creatives who demand my acceptance or tolerance of the Empire. Oh, that's just, normal people. They just got conscripted. They're doing what they're told. They're doing what they have to do. No, I pull the rug out from underneath all of that and say in very broad terms, everyone who participates with the Empire has already been desensitized to typical human plight to the degree where they cannot be considered innocent players in this game. They're all complicit, from this guy Krull, who is sexually assaulting the lovely Bix, to the driver Pike, who's out there, to all the Imperials who are on this planet. There are no good Imperials. They're all parts of the Imperial engine. And I think they've all become so desensitized to the horrors they've unleashed on the galaxy that they're beyond the point of no return. So stop asking people for me to have sympathy for Imperial or any Imperials, because they're all complicit. And we see it here in this scene where the guy turns a cold shoulder to Bix, saying, she's accusing this guy of sexual assault. She had to defend herself. She killed the guy as a result. But I mean, the beat's just going to go on for the Empire. It doesn't matter. You killed the Imperial officer. You're coming with us. It's over with for you. And you're illegal. Good Lord, So that's how I interpret that, why that was put in there. But I just wonder if the uproar about this scene would have been a little more tempered if the dialogue reinforcing the moment didn't exist. I think we could all clearly see what's going on there, but there was nothing really graphic. There was no nudity. He didn't get on top of her or anything. He didn't rip her clothes off or anything. It was brutal. It was brutal, and a little more brutal than the Star Wars we're used to. But isn't that sort of the calling card for this Tony Gilroy series? Didn't we all know this going into it all? I think we did. We were all wringing hands over the fact that Mosk in season 1 dropped the S-bomb. We were all, worried. Will Marva say "F the Empire" in that hologram message? Well, I'll tell you what. In the first sequence with Cassian in this show, he's dropping the S-bomb when he accidentally hits that TIE fighter in reverse and slams against the hangar bay door or wall. And he drops the S-bomb. It's clear as a bell. And it says it right there in the closed captions. And I haven't even heard a peep about that when everyone was going crazy about the fact that Linus Mosk said S in the first season of Andor. Now it's just, we're becoming desensitized, I think, a little bit to the maturity of Star Wars. And I think a lot of people are struggling with a mature Star Wars right now. While I'm relishing it, I think that Star Wars deserves to grow up with the audience that grew up with it.
Oh, I couldn't disagree more. I couldn't disagree more. No, I don't. I don't want Star Wars to grow up and
I've been dealt with so many just pansy kitty tripe coming from Star Wars that I relish the opportunity at more mature Star Wars. I really do. And I'm tired of pretending that this is a franchise for 12-year-olds and children, because it's not. It needs to grow up.
It's not exclusively a franchise for 50-year-old men either.
Well, it should be. As a 50-year-old man, I firmly no. I'm. Listen, you have cartoon shows like the Jedi Adventures, the Young Jedi Adventures. Watch that if you want your Star Wars for children. I'm really beginning to feel that way. I've seen too many swings and misses at the George Lucas formula to believe that Lucasfilm can't stick to the landing on that. And I would relish more Star Wars like this that have density and richness to it, that tell a story that feels like it matters. All the other stories trying to fit the George Lucas mold, they ain't working, and they're disposable too. And Lucasfilm knows this. That's why they keep throwing all of these different, very different series as far as tone, as far as execution, as far as the talent behind it. They keep throwing all these series at us that it's jerking around us as audience members so much. I don't even know what Star Wars is anymore. They are having an identity crisis. They need to figure out which direction they want to take this franchise in, instead of just throwing all of these different types of Star Wars at it. Is there still room for a kid's cartoon like Young Jedi Adventures? Hell yeah, there is. But there needs to be something for adult Star Wars fans who take Star Wars seriously, and a story that takes us seriously as fans, and the story takes itself seriously as a story. I mean, how long do we have to like tread water here? You know, when something works, it works. And Andor works. Do I want to see an abandonment of all things that made Star Wars magical and mystical and the fantasy? No, I don't want that either. But I'm saying there's a way to do it and present a more mature take on it. I don't need sexual assault scenes either to make it mature for me. You know, I don't really care for, like I said, did they really have to put the line in there from Bix? Did they really? I tried to rationalize why it's there, but is it necessary? Don't we all know what was going on in that scene? You know, it wasn't, I don't think it was too graphic though. And also I thought it was really compelling, and I think it raises the stakes on the story in a massive way. But, you know, I think back to, you know, the late great David Crosby. Remember David Crosby? He passed away a few years ago. And something I never knew about Cros, from Crosby, Stills, and Nash, the all-time great. It was I didn't know Cros was interested in Star Wars at all, but October 5th, 2022, he tweeted, "Those of us who love the original Star Wars have been waiting, watching each spin-off come out, hoping, but finally, Andor, writing, a plot, actors, good ones, so delicious. Please give us more, lots more. This is high grade." Now, I feel sad that Cros isn't here with us to watch season 2, and I would have booked an interview with the guy if I knew he
probably
was
would have loved a good rape scene.
No, stop it. No,
Hey,
no, that's
while we're talking about all of this adult
come on.
content, you know what time it is?
It's time for Blake's Take.
We got Kid
great
Blake
timing.
on the line. Yeah, this is perfect
Great
timing.
timing. Yeah, let's hear from the youth of America about what they think about sexual assault and sci-fi fantasy films.
Now, Blake, did you have to have a very special conversation with your parents after that episode? Is Uncle Jason just being a pearl clutcher?
Well, I didn't watch the scene because someone warned, told my dad that there's gonna be that type of scene. So he didn't know if it was gonna be a close off type of scene, or it's just gonna be some people, because he explained it to me after, because I just turned away.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna and he just said it was just fighting.
It really was. It really was more than anything. I mean, it, like Max said, it was not. I would never say it was explicit.
Nope,
at all.
But the dialogue made it more explicit than I think it necessarily
than anything in the action. I'll agree with you there. That's for sure.
It was,
as if we didn't
now
get
that
it.
was too on the nose. That was too on the nose, because we all saw with our own eyes what was happening.
Right.
So
right. We didn't need it spelled out for us. Get it out
at the end of it all. I mean, Bix kicked his ass. I mean, that's what we should be talking about. How this guy thought it would just be a walk in the park with Bix, and she put him in his place, and that place is 6 feet under. That's where Bix put that guy, and I've never been more proud of Bix.
But Blake, I see that you want to talk about Cassian and that TIE Avenger.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say this. I know my dad's listening to the show.
Yeah.
He is just like Cassian, trying to so in Battlefront, that's how he flies stuff.
He steals
just
it,
crashing into everything and blowing up.
Oh, his abilities, or lack thereof as a pilot. I see. Okay.
Yeah, he's not very good at playing or flying ships or nothing. But I think that in Rebels, we know that it's pretty known, but all the TIE fighters, all Imperial ships, have like trackers on them.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if the lady who like helped Cassian hit the ship took out the tracker or what. So the tracker there's a possible chance it could still be on it, and this is how.
Do you think though, Blake, that they would have raised that as a possibility, that there would have been something in the dialogue if that was going to come back and bite him? It would be hard to say.
No.
Well, in Rebels, they have this tracker.
No tracker, because Cassian himself said, "I've been floating upside down for 2 days now," and he spent at least a day on that on Yavin. So I think the Empire would have caught up to him by this point. They would have found him, especially when he was drifting aimlessly through space with nowhere to go. They would have found him if there was a tracker on it. There was plenty of time. So, sorry, Blake, no tracker.
Yeah.
Poor child's deflated now. Oh, God. He doesn't go to his Little League game. He's just like, I can't.
There's no tracker in the Andor.
There's no tracker. Jimmy Mack shot down my theory. He's so bad with kids. Oh, if I'm bad with kids, what do you think about this, Blake? I have a range trooper action figure right here. And, I think that's pretty cool. Ooh. Do you have any action figures, Blake? I've never asked you this. Do you collect Star Wars action figures?
Yes.
You do?
A lot.
Good.
It's mainly the vintage collection, though.
Yeah. 3 3/4 inch. Yeah, no Black Series.
Well, this is really not my night, I got to tell you.
Yeah. This is Black Series for those elitists. 3 3/4 quarter. That's for the people. Yeah,
that's right.
Accusing Jason of using AI.
I like 3 3/4 a lot more.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that's where
they
it's got
fit in your
its roots.
pocket. They fit right in your pocket.
That's where the roots are. Anything else you want to lay on us, Blake, about Andor in these first 3 episodes?
I think they were really good.
Yeah. Okay.
And
no arguments there.
As a kid,
the wedding felt like it was forever. Like I'm not like watching it, but knowing the timeline, like how long the days are and stuff. It feels like that wedding is like 4 days long or whatever. 3 days.
3 days.
Because every episode was a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God my wedding was only.
They're just partying.
My wedding was only 1 day. I can't imagine stretching it out for multiple days. But it was so, steeped in ritual and tradition. They had to climb a mountain at one point, and oh God, imagine being invited to that destination wedding. That's a lot. It's a lot to ask.
I mean, you might only want to show up for one of the days. And then just
I like
leave.
the traditional wedding hike. I like that.
Yeah.
I wish I would have enjoyed
breezed
that.
in just for that reception and the drinks, and I'd have been out of there.
My rehearsal dinner, oh God, that felt like it was 3 days alone, that rehearsal dinner. My cousin Billy Murphy came up to me. He goes, "All right, you ready for the family tradition?" I go, "Yeah, sure. What is it?" He goes, "This happens to every groom during the rehearsal dinner. You ready for it?" I go, "Yeah." He grabs the back of my head and headbutts me harder than anyone has ever headbutted me before. Like, I heard a crack. I saw a light. I mean, it was incredible. But yet Billy was the one who went stumbling. Billy Murphy was stumbling away, holding his head. Oh my God. So I know I'm hard-headed. But I was so fearful I'd wake up the next morning with this giant bruise across my forehead on my wedding day. I was so nervous, but it didn't happen. So,
you gotta be careful at those
bowling
bachelor parties and those rehearsal dinners.
But yeah, see, all that stuff adds up to a multiple day affair. And the headbutt, I believe, was unnecessary, but I think I got the better of that headbutt. I think I was the one with the harder head. So thank you
see
very
the other
much.
guy, said Mac. All right. Hey, Blake, thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it. Glad we got you in before bedtime. Always great to talk to you. I'm sure we'll hear from Blake next week.
Jason means his bedtime.
Yes, exactly.
This has got to be tucked in
708-866-1737.
soon.
That is the number to call. 708-866-1737. Still got some more points that we want to talk about. Obviously, as we work through these 3 episodes. And where's all of you keeping score in the chat and making guesses as to how long this after show is going to go? I always like to see that. And I make sure I end it right before your guess.
Dude, I think we're doing a pretty damn good job of breaking down these 3 episodes and keeping it all reasonable. We've only been going for a couple of hours now, so
right.
That to us is a walk in the park.
We used to do 20, we do it 90 minutes on a 22-minute Clone Wars episode, for God's sake. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Back when no one was evaluating these shows. Now there's 100 after shows and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. So where this sort of resolves, the tension that is built on all of these fronts. You've got the wedding and everything that's building up between Mon and her daughter. You've got Mon and Tay in that tense situation. You also have got Mon and Perrin. Perrin, we haven't really talked about him in this episode too much. Or in these episodes, but he gives that toast. And the toast that he gives was something, Jim, that Gilroy really played it up at Celebration when he was asked about, these great monologues and these great character moments. What do we have to look forward to in the second season? And he pointed out to this toast. So I was waiting for this toast to be some big, profound moment. And I got to tell you, I was a little underwhelmed because Gilroy sold it as being such a big moment, and wow. I didn't really take a whole lot from the toast, other than the fact that Perrin seems to be, I think, still very much dedicated to the traditions, whereas Mon seems to be the one that finds them stifling, archaic, and maybe a letdown from where she saw her life going.
I was really lifted up by Perrin's wedding toast. I really thought that presented us with a look inside his character that provided a little bit more substance, yet still remaining madly consistent with the Perrin that we've been presented with prior. He's the type of guy who embraces the good life. And he's a guy who embraces the moment as it's happening. He lives in the moment and he seeks the joy in the moment. And you just can tell by the way that he interacts with his family members and other people. And he's really very smooth, actually. I thought after season 1, and Gilroy did touch on this at Star Wars Celebration Japan, that, I thought he was kind of an aloof, sort of checked out kind of guy who was giving into his vices maybe a little too much, and who was rather oblivious to what's happening around him as far as his family dynamic goes and things like that. But this speech revealed a much more interesting personality from Perrin, and something that actually resonates with me about living in the moment, being in the present, appreciating things for what they are when they happen and for what they are. I think those are the messages Perrin was giving. And also he did so in a way that sort of illustrated the fact that you do face challenges in a relationship, and it's a little different in an arranged marriage, I believe, but that's the Chandrillan tradition. So this is just the type of lifestyle these people are very accustomed to living. So it's kind of hard for us on planet Earth on the year 2025 using modern marriage standards as our meter here. When you try to place yourself in the shoes of a Chandrillan,
easy for you to say.
Place myself in the shoes. I can't even say it. So, but still, it's much more complicated and much more unpredictable when you have an arranged marriage like that. It's really the burden is on the bride and the groom to make it work, and it's very confusing. I mean, that scene with Lita when she was crying and Mon goes in to comfort her and she goes, he's being such a child, and then you wait to hear what the reason is. Oh, really? Why do you have that assessment? Why is he being such a child? He won't hold my hand. Oh, he's being the child? Okay. He's being the child. Okay. He won't hold your hand. Boo-hoo. Cowboy up and get out there. It's your wedding day. Maybe
I thought that was
shows a little more patience than
girls mature a little bit quicker than boys, especially at that age. And
but I mean, that's such an immature thing to be crying about. He won't hold my hand. I mean, that's so childish. It's, boys don't. I mean, that's not a good measuring stick in that situation. I felt like she was being the child.
No, I disagree. I think they're involved in all of these ceremonies and these rituals, and he's such still a kid that he can't even throw himself into it and play the part and pony up. He still thinks girls are gross.
Yeah, well, maybe he doesn't want to do this. Nobody asked what's his name, Skekin, or what's his name, Stetson. What's his name? Oh, here it is, Stecken. Nobody asked him if he wanted this. Maybe he's crushing on some other girl at school or something, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta marry Mon Mothma's daughter." Jeez,
he knows he's there as a tool just to legitimize his father by him marrying into. I mean,
you think he knows?
You don't
because
think he knows that his dad?
Tradition.
You don't think his dad is a
no.
He doesn't know his dad is a mobster, and that what he's doing is going to bring a little bit more honor to the family name by marrying a Mothma. His father. Dominique says maybe he's not into girls. There's a subplot for you.
Well, I thought that too. I did because but his father asks him. I mean, his father is asked. Davo is asked by Perrin, is he strong enough? Because he knows Lita is a force of nature to be dealt with. He raised her, for crying out loud, and so he knows that he's unleashing this fury on Davo Sculdun's son. He goes, "Is he tough enough?" And he's like, "Well, like half." He's like half tough enough to handle this. He'll either lead or be led. He'll either learn or be led. So he says something like that. Davo Sculdun's already kind of given up hope for his son, and almost, I think, believes his son would be better off being led by someone like Lita, as opposed to.
I don't know. I think he looks at Perrin as the guy that's being led around. I think he looks at Perrin as he's the kept man that can afford to live in the moment because he has no damn responsibility. And so for him to be up there lecturing all these people that are risking everything, including their lives for a greater cause, and he's like, "Hey, I'm just a happy-go-lucky guy, loving the traditions, living in the moment." Yeah, he's not risking anything. And so, it's good to be Perrin. Every day is a good to be Perrin.
That's what Jason thinks about me, quite honestly. That's how our relationship is. Jason's the Davo Sculdun, and I'm the Perrin. Just going with the breeze. Let's party. Let's enjoy the moment. Jason's like, "No, we got to plan for the future. You idiot Perrin." He calls me sometimes. Hey, Stecken, he cut off. I just want to make this observation. He cut off Leta's braid in the ceremony. That reminded me so much of the Jedi Padawan ceremony where they get their braids cut. These braids really have a lot to do.
And you said there were no Star Wars tropes in this. You didn't mention the braid cutting. From a different point of view, different culture.
And by the way, at the next big fan event, me and Jason will replicate the first dance between Leta and Stecken.
Hand on hand.
Hold the hands. Hold the hands. Whoa. spin around in circles. And
All right, back to the
it'll be
phones
a
we
whole
go.
thing.
We've got our buddy Eric from Phoenix. You all know him. He's a Patreon VIP. Wants to talk about this arranged marriage and this scallywag parent. I don't like this parent guy. I don't like this guy. He's a lot of talk.
I grew to like him a lot through the speech he gave and just observing him through this episode. He gained a little bit of respect from me.
What say
more so
you,
than
Eric?
season 1. Eric.
Hey guys. I have to say, all of the wedding stuff, really all of this stuff, the Chandrillan stuff, I just thought was really cool. And the amount of detail that they went into up along with the dance you and Swank are going to do. And just the fact they worked that all out, had that all thought through.
Yes.
The braids, the braids showed up last year. And then obviously we figure out this year, what are the point of the braids? And you cut one off when you're betrothed, and then you cut the second one off at the actual wedding day, down to the clothing and the little ceremony they do. I mean, I just thought it was very well thought out. And you compare that to, let's just face it, some of the other series that we've had in the lack of thought process or lack of planning.
Yes.
I just thought they did a really nice job on all of it. And what I really liked, and I never really noticed it until the very end of that third episode, I don't think we see Mon or Perrin ever have a moment where they touch each other, like hug or hold hands, certainly not a kiss or anything. I don't think we ever get that in the first season, and I'm fairly certain we didn't get anything this season. And what's interesting is in that third episode at the dance, I think it was right before the two kids do their dance. The camera is watching the kids, and behind the kids are the boys' parents. And you see the wife look up at the husband, and they look at each other, and they have these big smiles on their face. And she reaches up and she grabs his hand. And to me, my assumption is that was an arranged marriage too. But that's a compare and contrast. Maybe I'm thinking way too much into it, but that couple, they love each other, whether he's a gangster or not. They love each other. They actually have a relationship. They actually have emotion. They have something there. And that little bit there to me showed that as a direct compare and contrast to Perrin and Mon. And that to me, once again, maybe I'm way overthinking it, but just the level of execution, the thought process that went in to the character development, how they staged the scenes, what they showed. I just thought that was pretty well done. And it does show that even though arranged marriages, we would all look at that and go, oh, man, that's a tough thing. But it can work in the long run because it's worked for that couple. I don't know. It's just something I noticed when I watched it. Once again, I might be thinking way too much into it.
Oh, how dare you?
It gets back to the level of detail and execution that all that Chandrilla stuff to me had in it.
Yeah, I thought it was really effective as well, especially when Mon was dancing and really letting loose. They do make a point of including Perrin in a couple of shots, looking at her almost as if giving sort of a seal of approval to what Mon is doing. Finally, Mon is acting like a human being for once. My wife is actually enjoying herself for once.
Yeah, I think he
this
seemed
is
a little turned on.
moment.
Like this was the Mon
Yeah,
married.
yeah. It could be something that might actually rekindle a little bit of heat.
It's going to be a good
Mon
night.
and Perrin. I mean, if they have to live with each other, if this is an arranged marriage and it's been relatively loveless, I mean, the casual way in which Perrin confronted Mon about Tacoma, he's your lover, isn't he? Is just like, is this sort of like, whatever you say isn't going to affect me either way. I don't care. It's not like it's going to break up our marriage or anything. And it almost made me think Perrin might have something on the side himself, with the casual way in which he approached that.
Maybe he's
accusation.
projecting a little bit, huh?
Yeah, maybe. I
Come
felt
on,
that way.
man.
It
We
just
both
felt
have a little.
we both, we
little
got
side
something on the
hustle.
side. You do, I do. You know it. I know you and Tay. It's fine. We can talk about it. BFD. It's our daughter's wedding day. Let's just be real. So, I mean, but I don't. There was nothing between Mon and Tay at that point outside their closeness was all based at that point on the very delicate information that Mon was sharing with Tay, and she confided in him, trusted him, believed that they were on the same side of the same coin. But at the end of the day, talking about coin, it's money that matters, and Tay needed cash. And just when you need cash, sometimes you'll do anything to get it.
Just like the great philosopher Harry once said, men and women can't be friends. And that's how it is with Tay and Mon.
No, I guess so. Who's Harry?
When Harry met Sally, that was the line. Men and women can't be friends. That was the big debate.
Believe it or not, never seen that Billy Crystal masterpiece. I've never seen that one.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate the call and your support, as always. So the arc wraps up with one explicit death and one implicit death. How about poor Brasso? As we said earlier, with the this was tough, but I got to say, Cassian bounces back. This is a major loss for Cassian, but he's already lost others. He lost his mom, and he wasn't even able to be there for her. So this is, I think, another one of those events in his life that toughens him up to the point where he's able to shoot that guy in cold blood at the beginning of Rogue One. He's able to completely give himself, sacrifice his own life at the end and hold on to Jyn at the end of Rogue One. This is the journey of Cassian Andor. He's learning to let go of people much more quickly. And he does. He lets go. They don't even take his body. It's just, let's go. Let's move. He has a moment, hugs him, kisses him, and then they're gone.
Yeah. But at least there was that, you really get to feel in a very profound way the emotional connection that Cassian has had with Brasso. We know they were super tight. They were buddies. They were drinking buddies. They worked together. They were neighbors. There's just so many things bonding these two gentlemen together. And to see his body laying there, I was, happy, not happy, but I was relieved to see that there was a moment taken to give Cassian that tender moment with his deceased friend, and we could really feel the grief. I think that's important, and I think sometimes Star Wars shies away from that thing a little bit, and I had no problem with seeing Cassian reveal his grief in this moment. But of course, he had to get the hell out of there. There wasn't really much time for warning. He had to get Will and Bix on board that TIE fighter and get the hell out of there. Otherwise, they were cooked meat. How many Imperials did Cassian alone kill that day on Mina Raalo? He just came in, blasted that transport. Hey, who called that TIE fighter in here? I love the comeuppance. I love the comeuppance. And the rebellion against the Galactic Empire offers me a lot of moments to relish the comeuppance. And that moment when Cassian blasted away the transport, then did a U-turn, came back around the grain silos, and expertly, like a sniper, shot out the bottom of the silo so all the grain dumped down on the stormtroopers. And then he's looking at them, through his TIE fighter, which he has really grown to have a good touch for flying. I would be happy to see Cassian fly this. Like, it would be so great if this kind of became his signature ship as we move along throughout the season. but he certainly has developed a lot of skills with flying that TIE Advanced. And he circles back around, highly maneuverable ship too. He circles back around and he's looking through the heads-up display, and he can see the life signs of the troopers that got buried underneath the grain. But then as he's looking, all of those life signs fade away from the heads-up display. And so he's satisfied. He knows. He flies away and parks the thing and reunites with Bix and Will. And of course pays respects to Brasso, the body of Brasso. So the whole sequence right there, I thought was excellent. I mean, I really believe that, you know, I know a lot of Star Wars fans are nitpicking the hell out of Andor, but I really find value in every scene of this show. And I take a great appreciation in watching how this character development and evolution of these individual characters is happening with such perfection as far as the flow goes. Their evolution is all very much a straightforward kind of story where you can really see. So here's what I predict. Now that Bix has been through what she's been through with the Empire, you know, the assault on her in her own home, the torture she went through at the hands of the Empire.
What's next
in
for
season
Bix?
1. Right, she's really getting. Well, I think what's next for Bix is she's gonna cowboy up, and she's gonna realize that the Imperial force in the galaxy is not something to run away from constantly. That's getting her nowhere. I think she's going to realize it's time to fight back, and she's going to stand up and become part of the organized rebellion. Sure, she's been, you know, we'd never ever learned how the connection between her and Luthen was originally made, but we know Luthen just doesn't take on such relationships without researching the people, vetting them out and everything. So he must have thought that Bix had something to offer, but how did they cross paths in the first place? We still don't know. What sort of rebel is Bix really? Is she just kind of on the perimeter, sort of finding opportunity for Luthen?
Right now,
or
she's sort of a punching bag. That's what she's been.
Yes. But is she really a fully fledged member of the rebellion? Or was she just contacting Luthen because
what is it, the mafia? You got to be like
well, no, it was like, why is she
and blood oath?
Why is she connected to Luthen? That's never been explained. Is it because he's a client that she makes money off of, or is she there for a higher purpose? Does she believe in the rebellion? That's never been revealed about Bix. The connection between her and Luthen. It's because of her connection to Luthen that Andor met Luthen in the first place.
Right.
They were selling black market Imperial equipment and tech to Luthen. But is that the only reason why he and Bix had a connection, where she was able to reach out to him on a secret transponder? And those guys on Ferrix also knew about that transponder and the way to connect with Luthen. So there are more people on Ferrix. A lot of them are dead now, but Bix is a survivor. Is Bix just part of that as an opportunity to make money, or is she part of that as a truly fully fledged member of the rebellion against the Galactic Empire? I don't think so. I think she's also crossing the threshold in this episode. She's not dancing it away. She's fighting for her life against an Imperial, and they escape. And she sees the death of her friend Brasso at the hands of the Empire. Is this really a threshold moment for Bix, where she isn't connected to the Empire just as a way to make money, but she's connected? I'm sorry, did I say Empire? She's not connected to the rebellion as a way to make money, but she's connected to the rebellion for the cause itself. I think the series of events that happen in the show are going to reveal 1 year later, when we see those episodes next week, 1 year later, Bix will actually become more of a fully fledged member of the organized rebellion.
Bix.
Yes.
Like it.
I think largely she's been in the wrong place at the wrong time. I think largely up to this point. She's not somebody you can say is a rebel. She's somebody who was making money off the rebellion, and she was making money off the Empire, but she wasn't really a rebel. She was a victim of the Empire, and we saw that in this episode, and we saw that in season 1. But now we're going to advance the story a full year. Is it going to be the same Bix, always on the run, or is it going to be a Bix who is a little bit more assertive of her place in this entire galactic chess game? And is she going to be someone who is a fully fledged member of the rebellion? Because I do not classify her as that at this point.
Well,
so
none
we
of
might
them
have seen
are other than Cassian. Brasso's not. Will's not.
No, right.
We don't really know what they're
involved.
doing there on Mina Rao, other than waiting for Cassian. They're hiding and waiting for Cassian.
Well, they're waiting for him because I mean, he's like a member of their family essentially, and I think the waiting for him is
They're waiting for him, and they're hiding out. But I mean, they're not doing anything there on Mina Rao.
They're not
Cassian's
rebels.
the one
No,
that's flying the mission, right?
They're just trying to survive.
They're under Cassian's protection, exactly.
And they're trying to make money the only way they can by being undocumented citizens in the galaxy. They can't be documented because everybody knows of their Ferrix insurgency. That's all they are. They're insurgents right now. They're not part of an alliance. They're not part of a cause. They just stood up against the Empire, like a lot of people in the galaxy are doing. But I think as the series is going to progress, as we get more weekly arcs, we're going to realize that these vastly different and separate insurgencies happening throughout the galaxy are going to be organized into what we know as the Galactic Rebellion against the Empire. So let's see how it all plays out.
Some super chats here. Zero Cool says, can't watch live tonight, but I'm not sorry because I'm watching Revenge of the Sith for the first time in the theater. Good for you,
For
Zero
the first time? You've never seen Revenge of the Sith? Or is he saying for the first time in the theater?
In the theater, he's saying.
You know who's never seen Revenge of the Sith? Ernie. He's never seen Revenge of the Sith. And I guilted him to death about it this week. I said, it's in the theaters, dude. You got to go see it. You don't even know anything about the story without seeing the origin of Darth Vader. But,
there's a great ad that showed up on social of Hayden Christensen waiting in line to see Revenge of the Sith. Well done. Well played, if you see that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really good for him, man. Enjoy the moment.
Totally. Scott St. Louis says, Sagrona Teema, Jason and Jimmy from Boston area. Rebels, Force fans. Unfortunately, we're unable to gather together live tonight. But last night we had a barf watch party and toasted RFR with blue milk. Thank you, Scott.
Oh,
appreciate
nice.
it.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
I felt that last night. I felt that toast. Jeff.
Yeah, there
Jeff,
was something.
Yeah,
there was like it was like somebody was it was like somebody was pinching my liver. Is what it was. It was just a little pinch on the liver.
I feel that every night. Jeff Holland writes, love Jeff. Jeff, by the way, your guess as to how late the show's going to go tonight. Jeff is usually the one that'll say, yeah, this is the longest after show in the history of RFR. We're at 2 hours and 41 minutes. Jeff says, is Porco the brother of Porkins? I feel like there should be 3 brothers, Porco, Porkins, and Porky. RFR number 1. I like that idea of the 3 brothers. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I think 2 of the biggest movies of 1983 were Return of the Jedi and Porky's. So, I might be wrong with those, but it's pretty close. I mean, I think Porky's came out in 83. Yeah, maybe 82. Maybe Porky's the next.
Now that's
day.
one I've never. That is one I've never seen. I never did see Porky.
Oh, really? Yeah. Gather the whole family in front of the TV to watch that.
Right.
That should have been an Easter Sunday tradition for this.
Move over, Sound of Music. Let's put in Porky's. Tanya writes, "Can we play 5 hands with Roski Rules at the RFR?" Rancho Obi-Wan meetup in September, but make it a drinking game? Yeah. Absolutely. Sure. Tanya, you figure that. If you're there, you figure out the rules. Let's play.
Yeah, you're in charge of that, Tanya, and me and Jason will definitely participate after we do our big wedding dance. Yeah, that's going to happen in Rancho Obi-Wan.
Okay.
We're going to do the Lita Skelkin dance there.
And of course, we know
Is that-
Sansweet can
what is
actually
that?
marry people. I mean, that's dangerous.
Oh, he is an
Sansweet's an
ordained
ordained
minister.
minister. Yeah.
Steve Sansweet has married people at Rancho Obi-Wan in the past. So, Jason, would that be a big surprise to both of our wives when we come home with an additional wedding ring on? It's like, well, I married Jason out there. I hope you don't mind.
Well, Wendy did once call me your podcast wife, I think. So,
yeah, I think so. I think she'd be fine with it. Yeah.
Cosmic SW34T69, whatever it is. You probably had me say something dirty. He says, is it wrong? I want Syril and Dedra to work out. No, I want them to work out too, but I'm predicting one of them is going to do a face turn and they're going to be forced to face one another. I just don't know which one it's going to be. My money, if I had to put money on it right now, I would say Dedra's the one that's going to turn, and Syril is going to be the one that's going to have to make the decision between his loyalty to her and his loyalty to the Empire. I think of the two, I would say that Syril is he's the true believer in the cause.
Well, if you're talking about Dedra and Syril working out, I mean, we're getting close to bikini season, and I think it is time they work out. I think they should join a health club and lose some of that winter weight. So yeah, they need to work
happens
out.
to all of us, yeah.
It really does. It really does, Swank.
Oh no, Tell says, quiet confidence, not a hair out of place. Take Colma is the perfect Jason cosplay. Oh man, well. You never know. Star Wars Celebration 2027 in LA. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Get that Take Colma going on. Hey, you know what? If I could hang out with Genevieve O'Reilly, I'd give it a try.
Also, you'd fit in well in Clone Wars Season 1 when the hair didn't move at all on the character's head.
I thought you'd
carved
be proud.
out of wood.
I've been growing it out. Look at this. This is the longest my hair has
Oh
been.
my God! What are you doing? You
Look
freak!
At that. Look at that.
Well,
I'm a long-haired hippie.
Spike's letting his freak flag fly. Well, it looks great. I don't really, the buzz cut is this gives you a lot more personality. I think
gives me personality.
And, Nahoop, not a hair out of place. Nahoop. You don't want people calling you that. Let your freak flag fly, Swank. I'm so proud of
that. Nahoop.
You're such a hippie.
Jonathan Tilley says Andor definitely embraces the World War II era with the Empire. Episode 3 felt like watching Nazis. Yeah, the propaganda, the comparing a race of people to animals. I mean, that is right out of 1930s Hitler era.
It is. Key
Nazi
elements
Germany.
of the Russian Revolution. Key elements of the Russian Revolution as well. Propaganda and race cleansing and stuff. That was all part of the Russian Revolution as well back in 1904. 1905.
Right. Well, yeah, the Jews had to escape
exactly
Russia before they had to escape, and they went to Europe, and you see how that ended in World War II. So,
Well, it was the Germans beating up on the Russians back during the time of the Russian Revolution. So,
right.
Jewish people thought maybe they could find refuge in Germany, but the beat goes on apparently in Europe during that era, and it's a really sad moment of history to look back on.
I am rolling. I am rolling says Star Wars should be for the entire family. I'm not showing my little kid the Bix episode. It didn't add anything to the larger story. We get it. The Empire is evil. We already knew that. Fair enough. And every parent has to make their own decision. I was showing my daughter, just on a personal note, she advanced so quickly as she digested entertainment, and she grew up very fast, and I could just tell she had the right temperament, she had the right perspective on things. I knew she could handle things earlier than my son could, and she did, and she developed a taste for more adult style entertainment much faster than I thought she would. And luckily, I rolled the dice and I was right. And she's, still an incredible consumer of all kinds of different television programs and movies and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is every parent, you know your own kid, you know what's appropriate for them, or, you know, what you want to do. And, you know, I'm not making that decision for anybody. I can tell you it's hard enough to make it for your own kids, let alone for other people's kids. I mind my own business when it comes to that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Somebody was calling us out in the official RFR Facebook group saying, we need to call Blake's parents, inform kid Blake's parents about what's up with this episode and the assault scene. And I'm like, well, I don't know if that's a service RFR provides. And I respect every member of our audience, especially the parents out there, to do the right things when raising their family, and only those parents know what the right things are for their families.
That's right.
God forbid I should start telling someone how to raise their children or to monitor certain entertainment for them. That's the choice of each individual parent. I would never apply that pressure to anyone as a podcast host or as a fellow parent myself.
Or a Star Wars fan or anything. Yeah.
But what we're talking about here addresses the confusion that the franchise is promoting lately with this whole idea of we can create a Star Wars for anyone, for adults, for the tiniest of tots, and everywhere in between. That's such mismanagement of the franchise, and why I say they're having an identity crisis, because they're segmenting the audience. They're once massive, worldwide, international, galactic audience,
multi-generational,
that was all walking in lockstep with Star Wars and understood as fans, as a universal massive fan base, what we all agreed on what we appreciated from what Star Wars has to offer us. So now Kathleen Kennedy believes she's making Star Wars for everyone, with all these madly, vastly different series and movies that all present us with these vastly different takes on Star Wars. It's a sheer identity crisis. This type of variety is nothing good for the franchise. It's watering down Star Wars and making everything disposable. By making Star Wars for everyone, you're making Star Wars for no one. Stop. Let's find a common place where we can discover focus and consistency for the franchise, so people can invest in these stories you're telling us. Everything you're giving us comes and goes so quickly, and the next thing is so vastly different. The thing that happened before previously becomes extremely disposable instantly. What do I have to do to get my point across about this misstep in management? There's all these rumors about Kathleen Kennedy and her future at the franchise. The only thing that's going to save Star Wars is by getting some fresh thinking in there and a solid game plan, which you'd think after 13 years of Disney management of this brand, they'd have figured out by now. But every day is like the first day.
And that was final thoughts on this.
No, I'm gonna dance. I'm gonna dance my ass off like Mon Mothma when this episode is over. Let me tell you that. I'm gonna dance my ass off, and to make it right, I'm doing what Mon does. 2 shots back to back, Chicken Shack. Let's go, baby. I'm doing it live here on the show.
Oh, there we go.
There's one, and there's the other. Let's dance.
Oh boy. Turtle Wars says, good to be back in a new run of after shows. Turtle Wars, thank you very much. Appreciate the super chat. As Mac dances away, we got Suds checking in. Hey, I'm really happy the Andor after shows are back, and I'm really enjoying season 2 so far. Cheers, Jimmy and Jason. Thank you, Suds. Appreciate that, pal. And another one from Suds. Come on, Suds.
Suds is wonderful. What a great guy.
He says
go drive to his house as soon as we're over, and we're going to dance like Chandrillans.
Every time Andor spoke during the first 3 episodes, I kept waiting for him to complain about Podcastus and Grando being idiots a la Matt Rashid on RFR RPG. Right. What I hear is Matt Rashid does a crazy good Cassian Andor impression. That's what I hear.
He does. And it's so funny because his Cassian is always super amped up and extremely frustrated with the tomfoolery coming from podcasters and Grando the Grand, mostly podcasters. So it's kind of funny to get this like really frustrated Cassian Andor berating us episode by episode. So check it out. It's RFR RPG is what we're talking about here. And it's exclusive podcast that comes monthly to RFR on Patreon supporters. So support Rebel Force Radio on Patreon, get full show video, bonus podcasts, ad-free shows, and more. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
And you just heard him on the phone, but here he is on the chat, Eric from Phoenix, long-time friend, great supporter, RFR VIP on Patreon. So happy to be able to join the live stream this week. Most likely will be the only one this season. We know Eric has a standing engagement on Wednesday night, so not easy for him to be with us on Wednesdays. So this special premiere RFR After Show worked in his favor. Most likely will be the only one this season. Have fun during the rest of the series, and I'm looking forward to seeing everyone that can make it to Rancho Obi-Wan in September. That's right, the big RFR meetup. Finally going to do a live podcast from Rancho Obi-Wan. Very exciting. It's going to be a good time. All the details at rebelforceradio.com. Got time
Tickets
for a couple more. What's that?
Soon.
Tickets on sale
soon,
yeah.
We're hoping by the end of May we'll get those tickets on sale. Of course, Rancho Obi-Wan is in full promotion for their summer fundraiser, and it'll also be celebrating Steve Sansweet's birthday, and that event is happening in June. So that's going to happen before the RFR event happens in September. So we want to give Rancho Obi-Wan wide berth so they sell out tickets to that event. So either those tickets sell out or the event happens in June, and then we'll put tickets on sale for our event in September. So I'm just trying to be transparent in case people are wondering why tickets haven't gone on sale yet. Why? We told you to save the date, okay?
Yeah.
September 6th. We want you guys there with us. This is really a once-in-a-lifetime thing, and the only opportunity we'll probably ever have to do RFR live from Rancho Obi-Wan. So please join us. It'll be supporting the Saga Museum, this amazing initiative that Rancho Obi-Wan is heading to bring together the 5 biggest Star Wars collections in the galaxy and put them all in a public facility somewhere in a major metropolitan area where people can buy admission and get their Star Wars on by immersing themselves in these awesome collections and make it into something a little more real than it is. It's pretty damn real at Rancho Obi-Wan, but I mean, let's face it, it's not an open to the public museum where you walk through the turnstiles, pay admission, and go into the museum. There's a lot more to it. It's actually Steve Sansweet's home, so it's going to have to find.
Reminds Jimmy Mac every time Mac's there. This is my home, Jimmy Mac.
Yeah. Oh, he likes leaving these soda cans around everywhere, doesn't he? And that's nothing compared to the beer cans he leaves laying around.
Clark jumped in with a super chat here. He goes, not sure how I feel about paying money while Jimmy dances, but I'm grateful to have this community to experience and process new Star Wars with. Yeah, Clark, we you know what? Jimmy Mac can take the $5 and put it in his boxers. How about that? No, we know.
Look, I'm doing the bad Tuesday. I'm doing the bad Tuesday just for that.
I love it.
Look at that.
Marty from Georgia joining us on the line. Hello, Marty. Thank you for waiting. You've been very patient. I think Marty might have been the first guy in the on the old switchboard. Marty from Georgia.
Hey, chut, fellas.
Chut.
Marty.
So I'll keep it quick. The thing I wanted to kind of talk about was the first Star Wars novel I ever read was called Star Wars Catalyst. It was the story of Galen Erso and Krennic and kind of the construction of the Death Star. And in that, they never really come out and say it to the scientists that they're making a super weapon. They say it's for some kind of energy project.
Right. Yeah.
And and so just kind of seeing that tie-in to the show felt really cool because I feel like Andor season 1, while it was great, I think one of the critiques that you guys had was it didn't always feel like Star Wars. But just hearing that like cloak and dagger stuff from Krennic and the other scientists there, really, and also it was a cool touch to see some of those scientists in the meeting from the oh my gosh, from Rogue One. That worked with Galen Erso.
Right,
I kind of noticed them too. So it was just a really cool tie-in, and I love seeing the cloak and dagger stuff that the Empire does to conceal the Death Star. It's just a really cool thing they've been building up, and I'm excited to see the Death Star's progression through the show. We see it in season 1 at the last credit scene with it being revealed Cassian was making like the firing thing for the super weapon. So
right,
I'm just excited. It
and
was
we know
a great
that.
show.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Marty, but don't they construct the early construction of the Death Star is, I believe, in orbit of Geonosis, is it not? Which is one of the reasons why they wiped them out, because there'd be no witnesses, and they also mined a lot of materials from Geonosis.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was over Geonosis. That sounds right. So in that book, they kind of talk about getting the Geonosians to help them build it. So it was just a cool tie-in, and it was, like I said, the first book I ever read of Star Wars. So it was just cool to see that tie-in for me. I really enjoyed that a lot. So
Catalyst.
And again, it was super minute, but it's one thing that really just endeared me to the show even more. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
it's a great written show, and
yeah, I mean, the Emperor got name-checked quite a bit there in that Krennic scene. He talked about he just got done meeting with the Emperor, so I really like that. I like the idea that they're not, even though there's not much supernatural about that, and for lack of a better term, that's what I mean when I'm talking about the Force and the Sith and all of that. For these people, it would be a very supernatural thing. So in lieu of that, the fact that they're bringing up the Emperor, they're talking about the Emperor. For us Star Wars fans, we know what that means, and he's a figure that looms large over all of this. So it's kind of like, I like that they're alluding to it without it being so obvious. And he shows up and he pops up with the lightning and all of that. That wouldn't work in a show like this. But
and
it
also
also
it's
is very similar to what we had in A New Hope, where they, Tarkin talks about he just talked to the Emperor. And
as far as the mention of Tarkin and Yularen by Krennic,
both name checked. Yeah,
it indicates to me that there's a 3-pronged attack for the Emperor's attention. Who wants to be the golden boy in the Empire as far as Palpatine is concerned? There are 3 candidates here. You have Krennic, you have Tarkin, and you have Yularen. And I love the addition of Yularen because we know so much about his history via the Clone Wars and his presence with Anakin and Obi-Wan and his reliance on the Jedi and his acceptance of the Jedi on the battlefield. I don't ever recall Yularen ever being skeptical about the Jedi or distrusting of them in any way, shape, or form during the era of the Clone Wars. We all remember the character voiced by Tom Kane. He was present, especially in the early seasons of the Clone Wars, a huge ally and fellow warrior of Jedi Knights like Anakin and Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. But yet, throughout all that experience, he has risen the ranks in the Empire to the point where he is being talked about in the same breath as Grand Moff Tarkin. Well, the future Grand Moff. I don't know. Maybe he's a Grand Moff at this point in time. I don't know. They just say Tarkin. But we don't really know what Tarkin's rank is. Let's just say he's Moff. He's not Grand. He's just Moff at this point in time. He's not yet Grand. Yeah, whoever wins the race between Krennic, Yularen, and Tarkin becomes Grand. They get Grand added to their title, and so we all know Krennic or Tarkin came out ahead.
Yeah,
we saw the friction between Tarkin and Krennic in Rogue One, and it appeared very obviously that there is a rivalry between the two of them. And Tarkin is someone who is
the minute that Tarkin sees that this weapon is a success, he takes it over. It's now his project.
That was my project.
Yeah, he lets Krennic stick his neck out and fight for this thing, and then as soon as he sees the potential, it's mine now.
Yeah. So like nobody's a winner
Their whole
in the
relationship
Empire. Go ahead,
I would
buddy.
say in that book, Krennic and Tarkin's relationship is also explored in the book too, and it's just that Imperial infighting that's so interesting to me. Like who's going to come out on top? So
yeah, I'd love to see a Tarkin cameo in this, but from what I understand, there's a litigation going on with his Peter Cushing's likeness and all of that.
Oh yeah, right.
So
There is
I don't
something
think
about
we're going to get it.
Man.
But it
like
would be
his
nice.
likeness.
Yeah,
his likeness was the royalties of that was given away by a third source outside of the Tarkin estate.
Outside,
Or
yeah,
the
the
Tarkin.
Cushing estate. Yeah, the Cushing estate.
Cushing estate.
Yeah, there's
You
some
know,
guy
the
showed
line
up that
for
claims to
me-
have been the one that would have been bequeathed the power to grant likeness rights and all of that.
Right,
and he's not
so
a family
he's threatening
member.
the estate.
Right,
He's threatening the estate to gain ownership of the Tarkin
right.
image. Essentially, Peter Cushing's replication
Right.
was done without his authorization, he's claiming, for Rogue One. That authorization came from Peter Cushing's estate, his actual family members.
Yeah.
But this guy is like, no. Peter Cushing signed those rights away to me years ago. I'm the guy.
I'm the guy you got to pay those royalty checks to. Let's see. Oh, we've got how about Eric calling in from Maryland. He's
Good.
got a theory about Dedra. We were talking about Dedra,
Ooh.
whether or not she's
Let's hear
going
it.
to turn face, as they say.
Yeah.
What do you got, Eric?
Hey guys, Sagrona Teema, or what's I don't know what they said in that show.
Yeah, Teema Salam,
but
whatever.
anyway, I have a
Yeah,
theory
yeah.
about Sagrona Teema.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about this Dedra and Syril and what kind of arc they're going to be on this season. And I mean, it seems like they're together now, and I'm just kind of wondering, like, where is that going to go? And we got 4 more years, or I guess 3 more years to fill in before Rogue One for the rest of the season, and that's a lot of time that a lot can happen. So I'm thinking, like, maybe they have to get married and have a kid, and then Dedra kind of becomes the mother that she never had to that kid, and she kind of starts seeing things differently as a parent. And I noticed that she seemed kind of reluctant about being a part of that the Gorman operation.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe she'll like witness the Gorman massacre, and she'll kind of start feeling some more sympathy for the people, and
remember that Dedra, and I'm kind of on your side, but I'm just going to play devil's advocate a little bit. That Dedra used the cries, the screaming death cries of children, I believe, no less, to torture Bix.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, this is quite a turn, quite a change. Not saying it's impossible.
Yeah, and if she does join the rebels and runs into Bix, there'll be some tension there, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, oh boy, I'm kind of thinking, because
I'd love to see
one thing that changes a person is for sure is parenthood. Anytime you change your role, you become a father, you become a mother, you become a parent. That could be the thing that really changes her perspective. I'm kind of liking that.
That would be such a great twist.
I mean, why show them as this domestic couple if that's the next step?
Well, I know. I mean, and she's clearly extremely devoted to the Empire.
Yeah.
And I've heard the actress Denise, she's laid down in interviews, kind of setting the stage for friction between Syril and Dedra, as Denise has revealed that her character is firmly committed to the Empire, basically married to them. So that, I think, will eventually propose a bit of friction between Syril and Dedra. But how far into the relationship will they be? before this devotion to the Empire truly raises its ugly head and decisions have to be made. I think it's going to be way too late in the relationship when Dedra realizes she loves the rebellion more than she loves Syril, or even any potential offspring they may have. That's the vibe I'm getting just from sussing out these interviews with Denise Goff and trying to wrap my head around the character of Dedra Meero just a little bit more and trying to develop some speculation. Either that or it's going to be a crying game situation where Dedra reveals something very shocking to us. Now, I brought that up with the Jedi Council just as a joke, but why not throw it out there to the masses?
Eric's also a first-time caller. Eric, thank you so much for the call, man. Great to hear from you. Appreciate it.
Sorry
and
the call
hopefully
went that way. I gotta say, I'm really sorry the call went that way for a first-time caller. It could have been better.
If only had you known. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, buddy. Let's see here. We got another first-timer all the way from. Oh, wait a minute. All the way from Scotland. This is cool. An international call. Of course, that's very exotic for us in the States. Wow, someone from another country. But we've got Craig from Scotland. Hey, Craig.
Oh. How you doing, guys?
Good.
On the show.
Good. I got to tell you something, Craig. I know everybody talks about the Australian accent being the greatest. I think the Scottish accent is the greatest accent in the world. So I'm very happy to hear that.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
your attention to health and your attention to healthy lawns is something I find very inspirational as we approach these spring months where fertilizing is most necessary.
A lot more in Scotland.
We know. Yes, absolutely.
I love it.
No, it's great to hear from you. Thank you so much for hanging with us and calling us up. What do you got on your mind?
Guys, I've been listening to the show for a good few years now, all your callback shows and all this. I absolutely love it. And the only reason I'm phoning in just now is because I'm on a buck party in Spain. So I'm just going to my bed just now. I thought I'll chuck on YouTube, see what's going on, and then you guys are on live. So I thought I'll just phone you right now because I love the work you do.
Great time.
Just while you were talking about Dedra there,
yeah,
I think the arc they're going to give Dedra this season is going to be good. I think last season she was very stern. She was so Empire. They're showing that a little bit of emotional side to her now with Syril and all the rest of it. So I like that story. I think Tony Gilroy's done a great job in Andor. And I just love the way the story's going. I'm so sad that this is going to be the last season and we're only going to get 3 episodes.
Right, there can't be another season. That's
we know it's going to end.
We know it's going to end, right? And how it ends.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say,
let's just live in one.
When you walk.
You go.
See, when you were going to Rogue One, you knew everybody was going to die at the end of it. You knew how that was going to finish. And it's very similar again. We know what's going to happen at the end of this season, but we're still so intrigued to sit down and watch it and be intrigued and keep going with it. I love it. I just absolutely love it. And I love the work you guys do as well with all the chat. It's just brilliant. Just love it.
Thank you.
Well, you make it sound so good. I tell you that. Craig, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. And,
thanks,
what's next?
What's next?
What's next after Andor? What's going to be the big thing that we're looking for?
Oh, well,
I think it'll be the Mandalorian.
It's going to be the Mando and Grogu movie, buddy. And then
next year. Ahsoka season 2.
Probably, Ahsoka season 2. We're thinking at either the very end of 2026, early 2027. Yeah. And then, and that Maul series will probably pop up at some point.
I think Starfighter's got to be amazing. Can't wait for that coming.
Starfighter's going to be something, 2027. Yeah.
Our dance card is full, and we're not going anywhere. So, yes, it's going to be a very wild ride. Oh, thank you, man.
Whatever you guys do, I'll be here listening.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it.
Right, all the best.
Thank you very much, and thanks for staying up late.
Love you, brother. Love you, my Scottish brother.
One more call.
I got a little bit.
What's that?
I got a little. I just want to say I got a little Scottish blood in running through my veins. So I really appreciate that call from the homeland. Peace and love.
Peace and love. David from Boston. Hey, David.
Chut, guys. I'm the barf caller tonight. I'm going to make it quick.
One of you survived.
But this is how this is how great this show is. You had mentioned that you've stayed away from the peanut gallery. I have too. A lot of bitching that I heard was like the stuff with Andor on the planet was boring, whatever else. But someone brought up the 5 hands with the Roski rules or whatever.
Right.
To me, it seems like a perfect metaphor of where the rebellion is at right now. While you have the Empire forming what they're going to do on Gorman, the rebellion's all fractured, and we've seen, almost the middle progression of where Andor's at. Cassian is. The first time we're introduced to him, how does he react when he's in trouble? He strikes out. We see him now, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are what's the name of that? The Maya Pay Brigade."
Yeah,
they won't believe him, and I believe when Saw and Luthen had their conversation in the season 1, Saw's like, "I'm not going to work with those guys. They're idiots."
Right. Yeah.
And it's funny, once Andor finally leaves the planet, it's revealed they're on Yavin 4. And this is 4 years, Battle Before Yavin. This is where the rebellion's at right now. We see where the leadership is developing, which is going to lead us to what finally happens 4 years from now. And this is just such great.
That was a hell of a reveal when Andor takes off.
Oh my God.
From the planet, and you see the temples. Absolutely, I mean, up there with you did it, you blew it up. Charlton Heston pounding the sand there at the feet of the Statue of Liberty. I'm telling you, it was up there with that, because I hold Yavin 4 as up to the same level. Absolutely.
Well, that was really interesting, and that's a very appropriate comparison to make. The end of Battle of the Planet of the Apes, but to bring it all home, I think it really compares greatly to that amazing post-credit sequence we got during the Andor season 1 finale, where they revealed that the parts that were being worked on in the prison that Andor was confined to, all those little parts that they were working on made up these panels of the Death Star laser apparatus, the laser dish. And so, very similar vibes, seeing that to seeing what we see at the end of this episode, providing us with those links, those connections to the big story we've known since 1977. The Death Star blowing up planets, the biggest threat in the galaxy, is still an amazing dramatic device to drop in on us with current Star Wars storytelling in 2025. Almost 50 years later, here we are going back to that threat of the Death Star and amplifying it just a little bit more. It's just a little bit more scary than you thought it was back in 1977. And I love the evolution of Star Wars proceeding in that way, where the things we used to fear the most become even just a little bit more fearful when you realize that there are people in prison building this thing against their will. They have no will. They're just doing what they're told, but yet they're contributing greatly to the Imperial war machine beyond their own acknowledgement, beyond their own realization. I mean, talk about being slaves to an empire. That's the purest amplification of that concept I could possibly even think of. And here we're getting it in Star Wars almost 50 years later after it was first presented to us. I mean, that's amazing. What a great, incredibly rich saga.
Hey, thanks, David, and thank all the members there of the
David.
BARF.
And good job, David. David representing the BARF in just such a great way. I mean, he's come a long way as a caller to Rebel Force Radio. I've been charting David's progress, and it's been a bumpy road, but his last several calls have been outstanding. And thank you, David, from Boston and the BARF, of course, BARF meaning Boston area Rebel Force fans. BARF. Yes, that's who represents us.
All right, well, that's going to
on the sidewalk.
Wrap things up here for this Rebel Force Radio After Show, looking at the very first arc in the second season of. I don't even know what to call these things. They're episodes. They're
arc.
3
They're
episodes.
Arcs. Let's call them
arcs.
They're
All right,
arcs.
Arc one. Done. But of course, we want to check in with the guy that really does hold things together here on these live call-in shows, and that's our pal Tyler Page, our official call screener and the official program observer. Tyler, I think we got through all of the calls. There were a couple that might have fallen through the cracks, but did we get to everything and all of the various topics that our incredible audience wanted to bring up?
I think we did. There were a few calls that dropped, but I think, these things are going to be marathons. So if you're going to call in first thing, you got to be like Marty from Georgia and stick around if you want to get through.
That's right.
Or have a chance to get through. We got a lot of good calls. I think the one thing that I can think of is, I think it's a direct comparison to the Bonzi conference, that one meeting room with Krennic.
Yeah.
Where they
yeah.
That's, you guys have seen that depicted in movies and stuff where the Nazis orchestrated the final solution.
Absolutely.
That's the one thing I can think of. And I would be remiss if I just didn't talk for a little bit about how weird Dedra and Syril are. I just think they're wacky. And you could think that's wrong of me to think they're wacky, but they're Nazis at the end of the day. So they deserve all the hate they get. And
wow, throwing down. Come on, Tyler, you're a single guy. Sometimes you have to make some, you have to make some concessions in order to have that relationship.
We're gonna get a Slave Hero action figure, man. That's what's coming.
I love it.
Okay. I can't. I like the show a lot, so I'm looking forward to more, man.
Yeah. Well, we like you. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for getting all the callers plated up. And, Mac was talking about our last caller and in the progress he's made. I think that Tyler's efforts here on this call screener front has really helped make our callers some of the very best. So thanks, buddy.
We couldn't do the show without you, Tyler. We really couldn't. And I want you to know that. And I want everyone to hear that.
Thanks, bud.
I'm just happy.
I'm trying to make you blush, too, and that's not working.
It's hard through the beard. But, all right. Thanks, Ty. All right, Jimmy Mac, we're here, Season 2, Andor, Arc 1, 3 episodes, 1 year later.
Wow.
Sagrona Teema and Harvest. Final thoughts.
Harvest. Oh, that title, Harvest, it made me wonder, why do they have these massive, huge silos on a planet that really seems to be sparsely populated? Well, we learn in this episode that these planets are not really independent. They're creating all of their they're devoting all of their resources to the Empire on a whole. And we hear that they need the grain from Mina, Raalo, and other places throughout the galaxy. I find that interesting. It just adds more to their overall overreach and suppression, the Imperial suppression. We heard from Babu Freak Barry, who reported to us from Star Wars Celebration Japan over the weekend. He saw the first episode of Andor before any of us, in Andor Season 2, and he says it opens like a James Bond film. And I get those vibes. James Bond films don't usually take breaks in the action for moments of dialogue or character development like what we saw between Cassian and Nia, the TIE inspector, who is also serving the rebellion. But it did have those vibes of a singular mission to do something, one thing in particular, and that's steal a TIE fighter. And yeah, it felt a little bit like the beginning of a great Bond movie. I noticed the ties in pursuit of Cassian as he was escaping with the TIE prototype were the same as the Rebels era Inquisitor TIEs. Remember from Star Wars Rebels, they look like this. If you freeze frame and look closely, they're the same type of TIE fighters. So does that mean there were Inquisitors chasing after Cassian, or was the prototype of this particular ship available to the Grand Inquisitor during episode 1 of Rebels, and then it became more or less standard equipment for the Empire after the Grand Inquisitor used it at first? But I definitely noticed same TIE fighters that the Inquisitor was flying around in Rebels episode 1. The Inquisitor TIE Advanced, aka the TIE Advanced V1 prototype TIE fighter, which was entrusted to the Grand Inquisitor. So I just took note of that with all of my nerdiness. Sorba was Perrin's uncle who greeted him at Chandrillan. But Sorbin's wife, who I'm assuming is Perrin's aunt, greeted Mon Mothma with the phrase, "Praise Mothma." What a glorious turn of events. And that line puzzled me to no end and still does to this moment. I wish I brought it up earlier in the show. Praise Mothma? Is this what Chandrillans do when they greet each other? Like if I see Swank on Chandrilla, I have to say, praise Swank? Or if I see Tyler, praise Paige? Or if I see a member of my own family, praise McInerney? Is that how Chandrillans typically greet each other? Praise Mothma? Or is that just a common phrase amongst Chandrillans? My head is spinning, ladies and gentlemen. And then we shift the action over to Mina Raalo on the Outer Rim, where we catch up with Bixen, Brasso, and the other rebels. The biggest revelation of that is that it's not Dantooine, like we speculated. Dantooine was also a planet dominated by grain fields, wheat fields, what have you. And there were these big monsters that would virtually swim through the fields of grain and attack people. Well, we learned that it's not Dantooine, it's Mina Raalo. So Dantooine's still in play for future Star Wars storytelling. Did you notice on Mina Raalo, the kid at that dinner table when they were all dining outside, the kid was playing with an AT-ST marionette? I thought that was kind of interesting, sort of shades of Rogue One when a young Jyn Erso was playing with handmade Star Wars action figures of stormtroopers and what have you. Did you notice when Edie showed up at Syril's apartment to see Syril and meet his girl Dedra for the first time? She rang the doorbell once and then rang it about 15 times more after that until Syril finally answered the door. Edie is the epitome of no patience. And also, she did not shake Dedra's hand, which was a clear FU to Dedra, which kind of inspired Dedra really to sort of put an end to all of Edie's passive-aggressive games with utmost swiftness. Now, we did also learn Syril's father had left the family when Syril was just a kid, and he was out seeking adventure. He went out for a pack of cigarettes and never returned. So that explains a little bit by why Syril was so handpacked by his mother. And speaking more about the pasts of these characters, Jason, I'm surprised you didn't bring this up when we were talking earlier, but because you brought it up during before we even started the after show. But the math behind Dedra's age. Dedra reveals her parents were arrested when she was 3 years old, and she was raised in an Imperial kinder block. Well, I mean, if you do the math, the Empire is only 16 years old at this point in the timeline, which would make Dedra 19 years old at the point of this episode. It just doesn't add up. She's clearly in her mid to late 30s. So here's how I work this out. Here's how I make this fit. It was initially her parents were arrested when she was 3. That was during the age of the Republic, and she was raised in a Republic kinder block. But when the Empire took over, maybe let's say when Dedra was 11 or 12, a little bit later in the future, then the Empire took over and everything became known as Imperial property. So it became properly known as an Imperial kinder block. So she's just really using the nomenclature of the current era, as opposed to referring back to the old times when the Republic was in charge, and it may have been called a Republic kinder block. She's only speaking in the language of the current moment. That's the only way I can make this work, because if the Empire is only 16 years at this point, then that would make Dedra 19 years old. It just doesn't add up. She's clearly 20 years older than that. I don't know. Star Wars ages and timelines can always be a slippery slope. I love the moment at the end of the episode when Cassian used the tie to destroy Imperial transports and kill stormtroopers. That means so much, to use this brand new Imperial technology against their own. And I think that's really something that's a trademark of the rebellion against the Empire at this point in the timeline, where rebels are using the Imperial weapons against the Empire themselves. And that's pretty gratifying to me as a fellow rebel. You guys may not know this, but I am totally a fellow rebel. And I'm Team Cassian all the way. So, I don't have a sign-off. Pufferpig, not in this episode. I don't know. I'll do better next week, folks. It just occurred to me I don't have a sign-off for Andor. What did I say in the other Andor after shows? Did I say the thing about Newt Gunray? Or how about if I just say, thanks for listening?
There you go. Well, yes, we do thank you all for listening. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll be back next week.
And I want to say one thing, and before I sign off, and remember, there's one thing I have to, and you'll be happy I did. Jason Swank came into this thing totally blind. He's our moderator for RFR. He's moderated us through all of these incredible series, from animation to live action. And here we are being presented with 3 meaty episodes to review in one single review show of RFR. And I just want to say, out of the box, Jason Swank, you did an amazing job. How you kept this episode under 5 hours is a true testament to your ability as the greatest moderator in Star Wars podcasting. No one manages a conversation about Star Wars as well as you do, Jason. And I'm saying that without any reservation. I'm not holding back. I truly, honestly mean that.
I appreciate it, man. And nobody screens calls as well as this guy, Tyler Page. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Jimmy.
We already
Mack.
said thanks to Tyler. Do you got anything nice to say about me? I mean, I didn't do that just for a one-way street here. I want to pat on the back. I showed up. I showed up.
Give me a week. I'll think of something. That's it. We'll see you next week here at Rebel Force Radio. Check us out, rebelforceradio.com. We're on all the socials, but we will be back not Thursday, next Wednesday, the day after the premiere of the second arc, episodes 4, 5, and 6. We will be back for a whole lot more, and who knows, maybe we'll go longer. I don't know. We'll figure it out then with all of you. Thank you so much for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you always.